Good morning and welcome to the June 13th Oregon Tourism Commission meeting. To everyone that has joined us here today in Lakeview and to those joining through Travel Oregon's Industry YouTube channel, thank you for taking the time to be with us. Today's meeting materials, including the agenda and supplemental materials, can be found on the Travel Oregon Industry website if you'd like to follow along. Commissioners, I'd like to acknowledge that in holding a meeting today, we met all public meeting notice requirements provided by state law. And now I'd like to ask the commissioners to introduce themselves. We'll start in the same order as yesterday with Commissioner Pendleton.
Good morning. My name is David Pendleton, and I'm the owner of America's Hub World Tours. Also sit on a few boards, the Clackamas County Travel Portland, and also Lane County board as well. I just want to say, first of all, thank you to the community here for such a warm welcome. I will like to say that from a community standpoint, it was just very refreshing to come into town and have an opportunity to talk with some of the locals. There was one lady by the name of Sam who has worked 3 jobs, or she's working 3 jobs, and then planning on going to nursing school. And her long-term goal is to come back and give back to her community. And that's what I've seen throughout this area. So it's a very nice thing to see here in the community. Thanks.
My name is Mia Shepard, and I live in Maupin, Oregon, and owner of Little Creek Outfitters. And thank you for hosting Travel Oregon and Lakeview. I love this area, so thank you.
Good morning, everybody. Anna Maria Ponzi, former president and founder, owner of Ponzi Vineyards, current owner of AM Ponzi and Company. Had an incredible time just seeing the area and spending time with so many wonderful people last night. In particular, just loved the hospitality and the beauty of this area, and just feel so fortunate to be a part of the commission to get to these parts of our beautiful state. So thank you.
Good morning, Scott Youngblood with Benchmark Hospitality. Good morning, Sue. With Benchmark Hospitality out of Portland, operating 4 beautiful independent hotels in downtown Portland. It is such a joy to get to spend time in a community like Lakeview, which reminds us of the importance of community and the remarkable character of the folks that we get to meet while we're here and when we get opportunities to travel around the state. So to our local hosts, thank you so much for having us, and we look forward to learning more today.
Good morning. My name is David Grimmels, president of Rogue Creamery. I also serve on the Governor's Sustainable Board, and I just wanted to thank everyone from Lakeview to Lake County for the gracious hospitality. I've really enjoyed the time here and have just loved the landscape and the views. It's absolutely beautiful here. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Greg Willits from beautiful Sisters, Oregon, and I built, manage, and enjoy working at Five Pine Lodge in Sisters. And thank you to Lakeview for having a wonderful reception for us, sharing home-cooked meals, including a great macaroni salad yesterday, and sharing their bug spray with us as well. Thank you so much.
Good morning. I'm Erin Stevenson from McMinnville, Oregon. I'm the founder and co-owner of the Atticus Hotel, 3rd Street Flats, and Cypress. And I've been loving my time in Lakeview, and am just wowed by the beauty in Lake County also, and really appreciate the hospitality from the Elks Lodge this morning. It was a heck of a breakfast, and I told them I was going to go back and tell our local Elks that they need to step up their game a little bit. This is a serious plate of food here, so we appreciate the Elks Lodge hosting us this morning too, so thank you.
Lucinda DeNovo, Vice Chair of the Commission and Director of Sales for the Mill Casino Hotel and RV Park, owned by the Coquille Indian Tribe. I also want to reiterate my thanks for the hospitality that we've experienced here. I also want to thank Bob. What a great tour guide yesterday, seeing the petroglyphs, pulling off when I saw the biggest field of camas that I've ever seen, and just to experience the beauty of the landscape and most importantly, the beauty of the people. So thank you.
Richard Boyles, Commission Chair and President of Merite Hotel Management, and I'll offer some comments in a moment.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Todd Davidson, the CEO at Travel Oregon, and the hospitality here is unsurprisingly amazing. Every time I've been here, been treated so well, and it's just always good to be in Lakeview and in Lake County. And just to echo what Aaron said, what's normally a 10-minute break on our commission agenda will be a 60-minute nap that we'll be taking here shortly. Chair Boyles?
Thank you. All right, so today we have an opportunity for public comment. If you plan on making remarks, please sign in on the sheet at the side of the room there, and you're welcome to do that now before we get to the public comment section. So, commissioners, I guess my comment is, wow, what a day we had yesterday. We met so many engaged community members working to make things happen here in Lakeview and in Lake County. We learned that the Travel Oregon Tourism Studio was the catalyst for some of that work. I found that pretty exciting. We enjoyed barbecue and a briefing at the fairgrounds, took in the natural beauty of the surrounding area on a tour with Bob Hackett, and then enjoyed dinner and drinks from a horse trailer bar, some cowboy poetry and music by a local duo. I feel we got a solid grounding in the Lakeview area and part of Lake County, but also just a glimpse of what this part of Oregon has to offer. So I look forward to returning and continuing the exploration we started yesterday. So indeed, just a wow day. And by the way, we did manage to get some business in. We held a commission briefing, and that brings us to today's business. So, commissioners, in holding an in-person meeting today, as we do throughout the state, once again, post-COVID, it's an important opportunity to hear from our local partners welcoming us to their communities. And so it's my pleasure to invite Bob Hackett, Executive Director of Travel Southern Oregon, to join us and introduce us to our other local hosts. Bob?
Just let you go, right?
Hey, my name is Ray Turner. I am the mayor of Lakeview, and I would like to officially welcome you to Lakeview. I'm sure some of you have been here before, and you've noticed how friendly people are. Stop, talk to them. 30 minutes later, you might walk away. But we also call this God's country. The beauty around here is just amazing. And if you're into hiking, the Noni Trail up by our big swimming pool, it's about a 2-mile hike and brings you out at the gun range. We have high mountain lakes that are beautiful. If you go east, you'll run into antelope, might see some bighorn sheep. The wildlife around here is amazing. I'm sure you've seen some in town. Yeah, just don't feed and pet the deer. But I really enjoy having you people here. So thank you guys very much.
Hi, my name's Tanaz Wilson, and I'm the new Executive Director for the Lake County Chamber of Commerce. On behalf of Lake County, I would like to welcome you all and thank you for your kind words and appreciation for our hospitality, and I hope we continue to live up to it.
And I'm Bob Hackett, Executive Director of Travel Southern Oregon. And commissioners, I'd like to really acknowledge the efforts that Travel Oregon and the regional program. I think you've been able to experience how the regional program works when it's working well. And I think that this community and the support that Travel Oregon and the support that you give my colleague Thomas Moser and I at Travel Southern Oregon to build the partnerships to do the work in this part of the state, in this part of the region that adds so much character to the work. And I thank all of you because I live in the Rogue Valley. I love that Lake County is part of where I get to work. It really is part of the identity of Southern Oregon, and we were so proud to share that with you. So facilitating the honest collaboration and the commitment from the partners that is enabled by the regional program in the outdoor rec space, in the dark sky space, the work to do in the EV space, but actually facilitating to make Lake County and Lakeview continue to prosper in the tourism space. You're a part of that, so thank you, and welcome to Southern Oregon.
Please hesitate, don't worry, come back, visit us. We'd love to have you.
I think many of us are looking forward to doing exactly that. Thank you very much for that local welcome, and we have felt very welcome here, so thank you for that. So our briefing yesterday, along with the tour of the region, which ended in a wonderful dinner and experience last night with local partners, was a wonderful welcome to Lakeview. Thank you to everyone who has put energy into making our time here a truly memorable experience. All right, we now move on to the business part of the meeting. And so on Tuesday, May 30th, the commission meeting notice was posted to the commission meeting webpage. Notice was sent to our industry communications, and today's meeting agenda and a link to this live stream were posted. The opportunity to comment today is really an invitation to our partners to provide us with information, updates, and constructive thoughts regarding Oregon's travel and tourism industry. I'd also like to remind everyone that a comment form lives continuously on the industry website, webpage, and so you have the opportunity at any time to provide us with your thoughts and insights. So a number of written comments were received, and those have been distributed to the Commission and will be posted into the Travel Oregon industry website. With today's meeting being held in person, we have the opportunity for attendees to sign up, as I mentioned earlier, and to speak with us. We request that remarks remain respectful and professional and ask that comments be limited to 3 minutes. So I saw some folks signing up, and it looks like Sue is, yep, you are it, looks like. So come on up, Sue.
Sue, this was one of the shorter commutes for you.
Well, I wish I could have gotten here yesterday. I actually have a Century Ranch here in Lakeview. We've had it for 100 years. We were a dairy when I was growing up, and my father lived on the ranch for his entire life. He died at 95, and we still own the ranch. I was there last night, so welcome to Lakeview. I told Scott I'd be here, and here I am. So I'm Sue Densmore, and I'm the Executive Director of the Friends of the Oregon Caves and Chateau. And I'm here today to actually ask your help, if we could. I'll hand out something here. Just a minute. As you know, we've been working for about, 6 years, full-time, to restore the Oregon Cave Chateau. And once we got it opened up, we found that the foundation needed help, as well as it needs some seismic upgrades. And currently, actually this afternoon, we're meeting with the National Park Service to help them make sure that they keep it as a priority. Is that a very politically correct way to say it? Yeah. So basically, we've taken a pause in the restoration, and they will bring in a new firm to look at what needs to be done. We're looking at probably a need for about $20 million to be found in their budget. We've done work with Senator Wyden, Senator Merkley, Chuck Sams, who's, of course, head of the Park Service, is from Oregon. I'm here today to talk to you at Travel Oregon. We feel like we are and we will make all the right contacts to find a way to keep the project on schedule. That is our biggest fear, is that they will say, we don't have the funding right now, we're just going to put it out till we do another Great America's Outdoors Act or something in the future. So our goal is to help the Park Service understand that this is important to Oregon and to help them find a way that they can keep it on schedule. They can phase it. If we could find the money, that we have about 17 million currently in the budget. If we could help them find maybe 10 to 20 within this budget, they could start the foundation work. So I'm asking for your help. I don't know what that means exactly, but your voice, possibly some funding in the sense of making sure that Oregon shows it's important to Oregon. I think that's what Senator Wyden said to me in 2007. If Oregon and the citizens of the Northwest don't show that they care about the Oregon Caves, the National Park Service can't continue to fund it. So we've done that. You know, we've been out there with our voice saying it's important. We have thousands and thousands of people that feel the same way. We have no doubt that people will be concerned if they don't think it's going to continue on schedule. Thank you. And welcome to Lakeview. Any questions or, yeah.
Sue, if I may, I just am going to, I don't know if you've had a chance to meet Kate Baumgartner yet. Kate's new to the Travel Oregon team and is our external and public affairs strategist, and I'd love for you to huddle with her and Petra so we can talk a little bit about your approach at the federal level as well. Okay?
Perfect. We do have on Tuesday the 27th, I was telling David, we do have a meeting at the Chateau, a tour with Senator Merkley's staff, and I think we're going to get Senator Wyden's staff there as well. So
Okay.
that might be something that we could have some help with. Yes.
Yep, great.
Thank you.
Okay.
What is your
Commissioner Willett.
schedule?
What is our schedule?
Yeah, what would be a perfect schedule for you?
Well, this afternoon, we're having a meeting with the Park Service to say you cannot postpone it. The rumor was 5 to 10 years would be the delay with the funding that's currently there. They would come in with some technical review to... I'll just make this really short. What happened is we started out with life safety and accessibility. That was the top of the lodge, and they opened it up and they realized there was a lot more work that needed to be done. And that work is what caused the problem. We put out the bid to a local contractor. It came in such that they felt like it wasn't going to work, so they've stopped everything and they're going to start new with a new RFP and a new request starting at the foundation, which anybody that does construction would understand that's maybe how it should have been done in the beginning. But that wasn't what our funding was for. So right now, I would say the number is 50 million, and I would say by September, we need to show significant support to keep it in the current PMIS schedule. If you know what Park Service means, we're right now we have a PMIS is how they decide in the region what the priority projects are going to be, and we're in the Pacific West priority project right now. If we don't figure out a way to help get this funding, then we could drop out of that and go back to the bottom of the pile and have to start over again. So it's September appears to be the time that we need to say something or get some support shown by September.
And you're saying in 10 years you would like to be having guests stay there?
Yeah.
5? What's the date?
It's been closed since 2018, and we were hoping to open it 24, 25. I mean, we'd still like to be on that schedule.
Okay.
We'd like to get it open. 25 would be a dream. 26 is even a long time out, I think. Yeah, we want to keep it.
Maybe we just schedule a meeting for 2028, and we'll make sure it's open.
That's a good idea. We'll host you on, May of 2025. We're ready.
Maybe 2028. Let's give a
well,
little
okay.
time.
All right. That we could probably do 2028. I can't picture beyond that. I really
Okay.
don't. I think the community for economic development, Bob knows this, it's huge. We bring in about $5 million every year to the region because the airport, they fly in, Medford. I mean, it's really a regional thing. And plus southwestern Oregon, Josephine County, it's huge. David.
Thank you, Sue. Thank you for your dedication and your work over a decade plus, and know that I'll be there and personally support you with my voice on the 27th.
Oh, I'd love that. Thank you so much. That's wonderful. I really appreciate that. So, okay. Thank you all for hearing me month after month, meeting after meeting.
Thank you, Sue.
You've been great.
All right, Commissioners, I would like to confirm that you all received your packets, including the financials, and had an opportunity to review them. All right, everyone is nodding their heads. All right, then that brings us to the financials update. I'd like to thank Commissioner Vice Chair DeNovo for reviewing the financials with me, Commissioner Willits, Commissioner Willits, Todd, and Kathleen. So, Vice Chair DeNovo, would you please give us an update on the financials?
Yes, thank you, Chair Boyles. It would be my pleasure. As you stated, we recently reviewed the financials, and the financials fiscal year to date 23 were included in our commission materials and have been posted to the industry website. Looking at the current fiscal year to date, as updated during the financials call on June 6th, through May, we have received $37.8 million in transient lodging tax dollars, or 99.3% of the current $38 million budget, amended December 2022. If we continue at this pace, we will end fiscal year at $40.5 million, in line with the tourism economic update forecasted in February of 2023. Year-over-year increase in transient lodging tax dollars is up 20% compared to the same time for fiscal year 2022, and compared to 2019, transient lodging tax dollars are up 22% after the adjustment of the change in the tax rate. Are there any questions? Todd?
Just one quick addition, and I apologize for not getting this to you, but the text came in after the meeting had already commenced. But Kathleen did text me and let me know that the June deposit has arrived. It was $2.4 million, and so we're at $40.1 million now against a $38 million budget. And we are still anticipating there will still be an accrual that will occur. These are revenues that we receive in July, but from an accounting standpoint, they are applied to this current fiscal year. The smallest accrual that we've historically had is $400,000, which would put us at that $40.5 million budget that you referenced. The largest accrual that we've ever received is roughly $1.5 million. So anyway, we're still right on pace with what we've had forecasted.
Thank you, Todd. This is the second time you've got to tell good news, and you've taken that opportunity away from me. So thanks a lot.
I'm going to tell I'll ask Kathleen to text me earlier. Sorry.
Well, I'm not sure I want to wade into that, but nonetheless, thank you, Todd, for that update, and thank you, Vice Chair DeNovo, for the review. Commissioners, I'd now like to offer a quick update on our governance. It's been a priority of mine during my time in service as vice chair and as chair to formalize some of the processes of the commission's work. In addition to some of the formalized documentation that has been created over the last several years regarding the role of the commission and commissioners, the role of the chair and vice chair, and the role of the nominating committee, I, along with Vice Chair DeNovo, felt it important to also formalize and document the role of the finance committee, along with the CEO evaluation process, and we'll be hearing a little bit more about that in a moment. The previously created documents can be found on our commission folders, and the new governance documents are being finalized, and I hope will be coming to you in the next few weeks, with the goal of them being completed prior to July 1st, when the new chair takes their term. Todd and staff have been supportive and helpful in creating these documents, and I look forward to sharing them with you soon. I'd like to offer a special call out to Sarah, who's been so very helpful in getting those documents into good form. We now come to an update on the CEO evaluation process. Vice Chair DeNovo, will you walk us through this year's evaluation process?
Yes, thank you, Chair Boyles. First, I'd like to acknowledge that for the entirety of Todd's tenure as CEO of Travel Oregon, a yearly annual performance evaluation review has been completed. It's also worth noting that this practice goes beyond what is typical or even expected by Governor Kotek. Recently, Governor Kotek revealed in her agency expectations for state agency directors. One of these is every 2 years, a 360 review must be carried out on agency directors. As will be noted in the newly formalized CEO review process that Chair Boyles just spoke to, that you shall be receiving in a few weeks, the process documentation. Sorry, I lost track of my notes. I apologize. You'll be receiving that document soon. We will continue to do an annual review of the CEO, including a formal 360 survey with members of Travel Oregon staff and the Commission. This process will start this summer with the goal of completion for a report out during the September Commission meeting. Commissioners, do you have any questions in regards to that? No? Okay.
All right then, the next item on our agenda is approval of minutes for both the April 3rd and May 18th meeting. Has everyone had the opportunity to review those minutes? All indicating affirmative. Okay, great. Any questions about those minutes, corrections? All right, very good. Then I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the April and May meetings.
So moved.
Thank you. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any in opposition? All right, the minutes are approved then. Thank you. That brings us to, I should note that those minutes, of course, will be posted to the industry website, so available for anyone to view. That brings us then to the nominating committee report. Commissioners, as was discussed during the April Commission meeting, a nominating committee was appointed to deliberate and propose a slate of officers to serve as the next chair and vice chair. The nominating committee consisted of immediate past chair Scott Youngblood and me. And with that, I'd like Commissioner Youngblood to bring us up to date and on that process and share the slate with us, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair Boyles. So the process, as undertaken, included consideration of those who've already expressed interest in leadership roles and reaching out to those whose interest had not yet been expressed. And upon deliberation, that included each commissioner's experience and engagement, we're pleased to nominate current Vice Chair DeNovo as chair and Commissioner Willits as vice chair for the upcoming fiscal year 23-24.
All right, commissioners, are there any comments or questions? Commissioner Pendleton.
Well, first of all, I want to say that I am in full support of both Greg and Lucinda coming in into the leadership role. But I also want to say that, you know, for the work that Todd and his team has continued to do to move the vision forward is in the process of the reorg and working on the strategic plan as well. It speaks volume to what they've accomplished and setting the organization up for not just achieving a 10-year vision, but beyond that. So I think with the commission as a whole, I hope we continue to move forward in working to create a governance committee, not just an update, but a governance committee to look and oversee and continue to evaluate or assess the processes we have and standardize them to stay in line, because we are the ones that take the lead. And I think that's important. And I look forward to both Lucinda and Greg continuing the work that you started and others as well. And Richard, it speaks volume what you've accomplished. But for the two of you, I look forward to working with you as the rest of the commission to continue to move this commission forward.
Thank you for those comments and that acknowledgement.
If I may, I also want to just express the same encouragement of these new leaders. At the same time, I echo Commissioner Pendleton in that I do believe there needs to be input from commissioners on this governance committee, and I think that that will provide a healthier future for the organization to have more voices at the table.
I would like to also join in and say I feel like I really second what both Commissioner Pendleton and Commissioner Ponzi have said. I applaud the great work that's being done. I'm very excited for Commissioners DeNovo and Willits to continue to lead as we look at these things, and I'm encouraged to go deeper into a conversation about governance and having the commission more deeply engaged as a whole in that process.
And I just to add one last thing. I want to say that I'm very pleased with the group of commissioners that we have here. We have an amazing group of commission here, and I'm excited about what we will continue to accomplish over the next few years. We could not be in a better situation.
All right, thanks for those comments. Part of what Vice Chair DeNovo and I have been working on is exactly in the lines of what you've been discussing, looking for more opportunities for commissioners to be engaged in a clearer process for paths to leadership within the commission. So we both take your comments to heart and look forward to continuing that work. I think I would say that prior to the time when I became vice chair, there were no written job descriptions, no description of how the nominating committee might work, what the considerations of the nominating committee might be. So I do feel like we've come a long way, but there's always more work to do. And while I won't be around to do that work, I am assured by Lucinda, assuming that the slate moves forward, that is work that she is dedicated to as well. So again, thank you for those comments. We're now at a point where I would take a motion to approve the slate of officers.
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any in opposition? All right, then. We have the motion carries, and congratulations to Commissioner. I was trying to decide which one I wanted to use this time, Greg. So indeed, congratulations to Commissioner Willits and Commissioner DeNovo in their new roles, respectively, as Vice Chair and Chair, effective July 1st. All right. So now we will move on to the strategic plan and budget review. Before I ask Todd to walk us through the draft of the Travel Oregon 23-25 strategic plan and budget, I'd like to ground us in the process that got us to this point. On May 1st, a commission meeting notice was posted for a May 18th public hearing on the Travel Oregon 2023-25 draft strategic plan and budget. On Wednesday, May 10th, the draft Travel Oregon plan and budget were posted to the industry site, and in compliance with ORS 284.114, the draft plan was sent to Governor Kotek, the Director of Business Oregon, and Tourism Industry Associations, the Oregon Restaurant and Lodging Association, along with Oregon Destinations Association. I'd like to acknowledge that staff went above and beyond that requirement by sending the plan to all legislative leadership, our 7 regional DMOs, 24 additional agency and industry partners, and our federally recognized tribal contacts. 5 comments were received ahead of our May 18th meeting, and those were distributed and discussed during that meeting. The public comment period closed on May 31st, and 5 additional comments were received before the comment period closed. These were forwarded to the Commission and posted to the Travel Oregon Industry website, and were considered when staff drafted the final 2023-25 strategic plan and budget that was sent to the Commission last week and is before us today. So, Todd, with that, would you please walk us through the changes?
Perfect setup. Thank you very, very much. In fact, I'm just going to jump to my first slide that checks the boxes that you just articulated, Chair Boyles, and shares the process. The one piece I will add, as commissioners may recall, is we had a preliminary sharing of the draft plan and budget, draft plan rather, with the members of the commission for several days prior to the May 10th public opening, so that there was the opportunity for commissioners to offer some comment before then it was shared with the public, and we began the formal public comment process. So I appreciate the comments that you shared. The staff are diligent in going above and beyond what is statutorily required. We are firm believers in the need for transparency and accountability when it comes to our plan and our budget. And you saw that process with the adoption of the 10-year strategic vision a year ago at this very June meeting. And we continue that through the adoption of this biennial plan and budget that you see before you today. One of the changes that was brought forward as a result of the early sharing with the commission, as you may recall, and I don't expect anybody to read this slide. I just want to let you know that this slide is available to you, obviously in the, or rather this chart is available to you in the plan on page 13, if you have a hard copy in front of you that you're referring to, or if you've got the PDF open on your computer. What we were asked to do is actually look at the action plans that have already been put in place for the strategic priorities that have been brought forward from the strategic vision, the 10-year strategic vision, and be able to articulate more about the details of the particular actions that were being proposed, as well as the KPIs. That was something that had a place in the plan, but this organized it in a way that made it far more visible and was done at the request of the commission in particular. Again, the idea was to make sure that we're spelling out the strategic priorities that already have the action plans built. As you know, the biennial strategic plan also acknowledges the next strategic priorities that we'll be building the action plans for as we enter this new fiscal year. Specific to the comments, we received 10 comments, as Chair Boyles noted, and the comments really fell into two categories. And the one thing I want to make sure I acknowledge right from the beginning is that these were really thoughtful comments. People took time in these comments. They were citing research. They were citing whether it was anecdotal experiences or it was actual research that had been completed. They were citing their own personal experiences and observations, perhaps from their history of working with Travel Oregon and various programs at Travel Oregon. So the comments that we received from the partner, 10 may sound like a small number, but what I want to make sure I emphasize is those 10 were really powerful because they were so thoughtful and very beneficial and informative to the work that we're doing. Some of those comments, as I note here on this slide, were very tactical in nature. And the commission has traditionally not adopted their strategic plans at a tactical level. Things change over the course of a two-year biennium, and so the commission has taken the position of adopting a strategic direction with specific priorities, but there's flexibility that is afforded to the staff, both in terms of how the plan is adopted and the level that it flies at, as well as the level that you adopt the budget at. So that, for example, when you look at our marketing budget, it will be a budget for brand stewardship, as opposed to something that might spell out social media, paid advertising, et cetera, because we may need to move within those line items within the year, let alone within sometimes a week. And anytime we would modify the budget, it requires a public hearing with 15 days public notice and has to come back before the commission. So again, the commission has been comfortable and has always adopted their budgets at that higher level, affording the flexibility then to the staff team to implement accordingly. So that's the same here, and that's why, again, all of the comments were incredibly beneficial, but they're not necessarily reflected in the plan because of the level that they fly at, because they're very tactical in nature. What I do want to assure you is that all of the comments have been shared with every member of the staff team, starting with our executive leadership and then with all members of the staff team, so they can see the comments that came in and the research that backed it up, the anecdotal experiences, et cetera, so that as we begin the work on those additional action plans, as we're carrying out the programs of work against our core programs that exist at Travel Oregon, those comments are able to be front and center to them. So none of that information is lost. And so it may not be reflected in the plan itself, but that doesn't mean it won't wind up being reflected in the actual work of your staff team as we move forward through the biennium. There was a specific change that was made to the language. Again, I will read this to you so that you don't need to, but there was specific language that was added to the strategic plan to acknowledge the comments that were submitted. And here's the language specifically. While strategic and actionable in nature, as the 10-year vision outlines, this strategic plan is a high-level roadmap focusing on the work we intend to accomplish over the next 2 years. This plan is not intended to be an exhaustive portrait of how we anticipate supporting each of the important and varied tourism experiences across Oregon. Rather, this plan identifies key strategies to focus on first, building upon and providing foundational support for future strategies. This plan provides the guidance and structure that allows us to uplift all communities and niche products and activities across the state. Remaining nimble and responsive to the needs of our residents, industry, and visitors, the tactics to accomplish this work will continue to evolve as we support the ever-changing needs of our industry and our partners. The second category of comments received were comments where folks may have a suggestion on priorities or a question of clarity. One of these commissioners may recall was making sure that our role as an economic development agency, this was also a theme that came up when we were deliberating the 10-year strategic vision, continue to be front and center. And so making sure that was addressed specifically within this strategic plan as we did in the vision was important. Making sure that it was clear on the priorities to be addressed, and also making sure we were clear about the way some of the work was going to be carried out. There were concerns expressed in some of the comments that Travel Oregon might be backing away from their work in communities. And that was especially disconcerting to me because I would challenge, nothing could probably be further from the truth. We are talking in this strategic plan about, and we're talking about it also within our organizational design, about how we're taking a regional focus to our work. And how in the past maybe it had felt very community focused and now it's going to be regionally focused. But that doesn't mean we're walking away from our work in communities to do work with the regions. In fact, as I noted, it's just the opposite. It's about doing our work in communities in conjunction with the regions, making sure that they're aware of, are collaborating with, understand why we're in this particular community carrying out this work, but our research is, so that we have them as allies, because we're not going to necessarily be able to be in every community in every region every year. But if our regional partners are there with us when we're doing that work with that particular community, when we maybe move into another community in another region, we have an ally. We have somebody that's there collaborating with us, understands with us the importance of that work, and is able to help carry that work forward. So that was important for us as we carry out this work, and the added staff capacity that we're bringing forward as part of the organizational design process is evidence of that as well. So there has been some specific language that has been added to the plan to make sure that we are addressing this as well. And the language is that the new organizational design will increase capacity and staffing across the agency and includes the creation of a destination stewardship team that will expand regional and community destination stewardship services and better align the regional cooperative tourism program and grants programs. There's a brand stewardship team that combines and expands existing marketing and sales teams, an insights and impact team that will invest and optimize alignment between research, public affairs, and policy, communications, and industry relations, and an expanded administrative team to guide investments in our people and culture to ensure the agency can efficiently and effectively implement the 10-year strategic vision. One of the other additions that was made was to the plan. This is on page 10 of the revised draft that was put in front of you, was the addition of our high-level organizational structure. This is not new to our biennial plans. We often do this, but we wanted to, that was not in the one that we shared back in earlier in May. So it is added. I did want to make sure that I called that out. This is the high-level organizational structure that will take effect on July 1st. Of this year. Until then, I just want to remind everybody that may be tuning in through our YouTube channel or here in the audience that all of your contacts remain the same. And the information that is here, along with some additional details, will be able to be provided so you know who to contact about what program at that particular time. Specific to the budget that was shared with the commissioners has also been modified slightly. The revenue forecast that was shared with you at the May meeting has not been modified. That is still as it was. The transient lodging tax from 2023 is also still the same. We are still forecasting that we will hit that $40.5 million level, and so there would be money over and above the $38 million budget that we're anticipating that would need to be allocated. The reason, I'm sure you're all sitting there going 40.5 minus 38 is 2.5. This says 1.75. That's because this is 70% of that. 30% of that money, 20% goes to the RCTP, and 10% goes to grants. So that's what you're seeing there is the 70% figure. The dollar amount that has been modified on this is the other income. And this is where I want to give a very special shout out, if I may at this time, to Kathleen. And I erroneously noted earlier when Commissioner DeNovo was giving the financial report that I will try to get an earlier text from Kathleen next time. Right. So, well, the reality is Kathleen's on it. Kathleen was fine with getting me the information. Things have been a little unsettled, I guess is the word I will use, in Salem. And so us getting the information from the Department of Revenue may have been what was a little bit delayed. We usually get the dollar amounts, the amount of the deposit, sometime between the 8th and the 10th. And obviously I was just getting them this morning. So things were slightly delayed. That is definitely not on Kathleen. That's just a function of the current situation in Salem, more to that point. But what I do want to make sure I call out is the modification that's been made in that other income category. And it's in one specific piece of this, because this does include Governor's Conference revenue, welcome center brochures, the Oregon Trail Fund, other grants that are anticipated being received. And it also includes our interest income. And because of Kathleen's professionalism, because of Kathleen's tenacity, because of Kathleen's diligence, she's been working with our financial institution to ensure that our accounts are not only set up in such a way that they can be interest-bearing accounts, but that we're optimizing the interest that we are able to receive. And there are a variety of ways that can be done, and that's why I'm so glad to have Kathleen working on this. As a result of her work, we have modified our forecast for interest income to come in during the biennium. We were anticipating roughly $200,000 to $225,000 per year, roughly $450,000. We have modified that now to $1 million, which is not insignificant. Even in a $95 million budget, an additional $1 million is not an insignificant amount of money. And so that roughly doubles our forecast for interest income. And so that is subsequently reflected in the program budgets that are shown down below, specifically within the Destination Stewardship Department. We'd asked each of our departments to submit their budgets. And of course, as we often say at Travel Oregon, we'll always run out of money before we run out of great ideas. And so if you had combined all of the initial budgets that had come in, you would have seen that we were significantly ahead of where we were forecasted, so different cuts needed to be made. One of the places we wanted to add back was in the idea of some of the very specific investments that would be made in that destination stewardship area. In other words, investments being made in communities in regions around the work that we're doing around destination stewardship. So that area in particular was plussed up. As a little bit of a recap just on the transient lodging tax forecast, it is 8% growth in year one, 9% growth in year two. You probably recall that the forecast that we received from Tourism Economics had an upside forecast of 11% and a baseline of 4%. So we're at 8, roughly right there in the middle. The Smith Travel Research forecast is roughly 8.8%. One of the most significant data points for me in the most recent Dean Runyon Economic Impact Report from 2022 was how our international visitation is not fully recovered yet. You may recall one of the takeaways, one of the data points from the 2022 Economic Impact, which again was $13.9 billion that was spent by visitors in 2022. Only 5% of that was international. Typically, our destination spending in Oregon is about 12% from international. And it's a signal of a couple of things. And one of those is that not all of our international markets were open, in 2022, fully open, especially our Asia markets, which are significant contributors to Oregon's travel and tourism economy. The second point is that America had not lifted many of its restrictions and requirements that we had on international visitors coming to the U.S. until May of this year. And so with those two things now in play, with the anticipated return of the nonstop air service to Asia, hopefully later this year, could be spring of 24. That's one place alone that we would anticipate some increased growth over the course of the biennium. So again, I feel very comfortable with these forecasts. The economic impact, or the national economic news as recently as this morning about the softening of inflation, again, encouraging news. The Oregon Office of Economic Analysis, as you may recall when I reported out to you in May, was that a mild recession was what was anticipated at best, and probably not until 2024, could even be later. So again, I feel very confident in these forecasts, but I will also remind you that we're tracking these every month, and we're reporting out to the commission, through the finance committee, through regular meetings in terms of how we're tracking against our budget. So there will be ongoing analysis and review of that. So with that, the expenses remain generally the same, minus the modification that I had made. It reflects the statutory requirements that are in place, the 10% for the competitive grant program and the 20% for the regional cooperative tourism program. It also honors the commission's policy for a 5% reserve fund. And so the dollar amount that you see there is what I will call deposit that is necessary into the reserve fund to make sure that we're operating with a 5% reserve fund. This was a slide that I also shared with you in May, and also back in December when we did a budget modification, but we've begun becoming even more intentional in what I call an outcome-based budgeting approach, and that is being able to track expenditures back to the specific objectives within the 10-year strategic vision. We obviously have a lot of core program work that we do that will eventually map to that, but this is new. This is obviously new work for us. And so what we're able to demonstrate at this time is of that $95 million budget, how $36 million of that is directly tracking to 4 of the objectives that are contained within the 10-year strategic vision. And again, this slide is the same as what you had seen in May. As you know, the Legislative Fiscal Office asked us to share the budgets with you in the manner that uses the governor's and the legislature's budget classifications. We do not ask the commission to adopt the budget in this manner. We believe the budgets that you do adopt tell a better story of how we're investing the resources that we are given. But we do, as asked, as it relates to the Legislative Fiscal Office, and so this is that budget. So we're able to articulate to them that this has been shared with you. And then, finally, wanted to also share with you, per the request of the Legislative Fiscal Office, the specific budget for the Wine Country License Plate Program. This is a pass-through program. We are in statute named. We do not receive an administrative fee for operating this grant program. So it is truly, in that regard, pass-through dollars in 2 ways. One is through a matching grant program that we do administer, and the other is a distribution to tourism promotion agencies through the definition that is provided in statute governing the Wine Country License Plate Program. The Legislative Fiscal Office asked that we include this in our budget presentation to the Commission, which we are doing. So we're anticipating transfers from the Oregon Department of Transportation from the Wine Country License Plates to the tune of about $820,000. And then you see the budgets as they'll be spelled out there, $410,000 in the matching grants, $410,000 to the tourism promotion agencies over the course of the next biennium. So with that, I will conclude my presentation, and we'll turn it back over to you, Chair Boyles, to begin the discussion and deliberation on our 23-25 plan and budget.
Very good. Thanks, Todd, for walking us through the response to the comments, the budget tweaks, the budget overall, the revenue forecasts, and other matters related to the draft plan. Commissioners, any comments or questions? Commissioner Pendleton.
First thing I would like to say is it was nice to see Todd's face this morning when Kathleen reached out to him with the news. It's always exciting when you come to a meeting like this and you hear nothing but positive things. So all the information you shared here was, kudos to you and your team. And the other thing I want to say is in regards to the comments. I think you know this, for me, and the rest of the commission as well, it's equally important that the entire state of Oregon see themselves in this plan. So I'm so happy you took the time to share information in terms of what your team is doing, because in those comments, regardless of where and how you insert into the work you do, but with the arts and culture, with the comments from Ben as it relates to the KPIs and other measurables, and or the community capacity, some of the comments made there, the film industry, you look back and see really there's so much that's been done here. And so it just continues to show that we're continuing to move forward in the work that we do to support this industry and the communities throughout the state. So thanks.
You only saw my face after I called her. The first text that I received from Kathleen was regarding a specific number within the deposit, and so when I inquired about the deposit, the first number that was shared with me was $84,000. At that point, I got up and left the room and went outside to call her. And she's like, well, the deposit was she had also followed up with another text. I hadn't seen it because I was on my way outside to call her. And that's where we learned about the $2.4 million. So that was the face you saw, not the $84,000 face. That was a different face.
Yeah, again, thank you, Todd, for the presentation. I also just want to bring up the very valuable visitor data that was passed along to stakeholders to, again, just tie that into the tactics. What we found from that data, I think, is very interesting in that we're looking at a high percentage of women traveling to Oregon at very high, a median income of, I think, $118,000. Boomers, and this is definitely an audience that we want to pay attention to when we get to the tactics, and I just want to make sure everyone's aware of that. Those are the people who are bringing dollars as well to our state. I want to go back, if possible, to a slide, and that is the one that notes the tracking, the one just before that, just before this one. Mm-hmm. So my question is, how are you actually tracking back to these dollars? Mm-hmm. Are these categories, because we have the economy is flourishing. What does that mean? What is that tying to? What category of travel versus equity versus remarkable experiences?
Yeah, it's a great question. And if I may, I'm going to draft off your first comment because, again, as I noted and as you reinforced, the comments, all the comments we receive are incredibly valuable. And the one in particular that you mentioned that cited some specific consumer research that had been done, highly valuable. And I mentioned that the comments had been obviously shared with the commission. They've been shared with the leadership team at Travel Oregon and shared with the entire staff team. They will also all be posted to the industry website. So all industry partners are able to see that same research and see the comments that were shared with us as we were contemplating this plan, so they can take it into account when they're thinking about their own local planning and regional planning efforts as well. So a true benefit all the way through what I'll call kind of that DMO and industry ecosystem, with the time that folks took to put those comments together. Specific to this, the mapping, as I referred to it, is done by each of the departmental VPs when they're looking at their specific programs, as well as the work that we did with the action teams around the strategic priorities. Obviously, the strategic priorities are tied to an objective, so you have that automatically. If we've put together a plan against a particular strategic priority, and that plan, I'm going to just choose a number, is $1 million to implement, then that's immediately attributable to the objective. But there can also be other work that could be within the brand stewardship department, the destination stewardship department, where they're able to say, this maps directly to this. So they're doing attribution. That's how it's working at this point. And what will eventually happen is, as we move forward with this, because outcome-based budgeting is a new way of budgeting for Travel Oregon. It's not uncommon in public agencies to use what's called current service level budgeting. If you're familiar with that, it's like, what's your current budget and what would you need to be able to retain those services? In other words, what was the cost of inflation or CPI? And budgets are asked to increase accordingly. That's what we're looking at Travel Oregon is more of what I'll call zero-based budget, where you're kind of starting and saying, what is it we need to do to be able to deliver on this plan and this vision? And this is that initial step against that. So this specifically is the departmental VPs attributing specific programs that they're anticipating carrying out over the course of the biennium and how they map directly to one of the strategic priorities in the vision, which then triggers the attribution to the objective. So forgive me for the long answer, but it's a great question.
No, thank you. I appreciate the clarity on that.
Yeah, it's great to have it make sure it's understood by all, so I appreciate the question very much.
Thank you, Richard. I just want to take a step back and thank Todd and the team we talked about the commission seeing this plan prior to it going out to the industry. I think that was really valuable, and I think some great comments came from that were put in the plan. So thank you to Todd and staff. I also want to call out Kathleen. $1 million is $1 million. So well done, Kathleen, for making that contribution. Just in regards to this slide right here, I too am grateful for the question, but what I from Commissioner Ponzi. But what I love about this is that it's really pointing to the fact that we are making sure that we are following that 10-year strategic vision, right? So it's telling us exactly our commitment to the plan, and so I was really appreciative of this plan. I also want to thank you for taking the comments so seriously, and there were a number of comments coming from the rural Oregon communities feeling like they weren't seen in this plan, and I appreciate the clarification and Travel Oregon's commitment to that is absolutely not the case. We are definitely committed to rural Oregon and all of Oregon. So as always, thank you to Todd and the team for all of your work on the plan. I think it's a solid plan, and I'm looking forward to it rolling out soon.
Thanks, Lucinda.
Seems as though the commissioners are all looking at the same things. In my notes, I had focused in actually on these same two broader topics. I'd like to echo appreciation for taking the time to really respond to the comments that are coming in. It's wonderful when people reach out to commissioners to share thoughts, feedback, let us know what's happening in your communities, what your concerns are, what your questions are. It's really great when there's follow-up with that, and that goes into the commission packet in terms of written materials and something that Todd and the Travel Oregon team have the chance to respond to directly. And so I really appreciate seeing those 10 comments in writing, and I appreciate the effort to really speak to those. And I think that it would be wonderful to see even more comment come in that way and have greater opportunity to really speak to what some of those concerns, questions, encouragement, feedback are coming in from around the state to make sure that our stakeholders and our DMOs are really, being heard and their voices are always at the table, front and center. My question is similar to Commissioner Ponzi's. It was focused on this outcome-based budgeting, which I really appreciate this shift. But as we make this shift, I'm curious overall when it comes to having these big buckets within our budget, how we'll be reporting out against this in the future, how we're going to look at, not just look at the outcomes, but look at the dollars as they're being spent throughout the year, and how this money is flowing out and how departments are allocating it and putting it to use against these larger buckets.
No, it's a great question. And to be clear, this is what you're seeing on this particular slide is not that we've created a bucket that's $9.2 million within the Travel Oregon budget to address Oregon's tourism economy as flourishing. Rather, what we've done is looked at the budget that had the infamous donut chart on it from earlier in the presentation and said, how do some of these actually track to the objectives? Because obviously Travel Oregon has core programs that are continuing. We heard loud and clear in our stakeholder survey that the work like our advertising campaigns, our sales efforts internationally, our work in the communities, like the tourism studio that was cited yesterday when we were all together at the fairgrounds, and what that has meant to this community in particular, continues. And some of that will eventually map back to these objectives. Some of it is currently part of our core programs. And so to look at these as particular buckets may not be correct, but we do have KPIs that are in the vision and KPIs that are in the plan. That's how you would hold us accountable. That's how we're going to map in terms of, are these dollars delivering the kinds of returns that we anticipated they were going to? So us being able to then pull that together into dashboards that are going to be easily, I guess I'll say, digestible by the members of the commission in terms of, I always see our meetings and the strategic plan progress reports that we provide to the commission in advance of each meeting as an accountability measure for us. This is us reporting to you. There may not always feel like there's a lot of deliberation that occurs in a commission meeting, but it is certainly one where we're holding ourselves into account and coming to you saying, here's how we're doing at delivering against the KPIs and the budget that was in the plan. And so that would be the primary mechanism, is that 4 to 5 times a year, you're going to have that strategic plan progress report, the KPIs that are in that, and have us reporting out against those that are part of the vision and are part of the plan.
Thank you.
You bet. Thanks for the question.
Commissioner Youngblood.
How did you know? He always knows. On the topic of this outcome-based budgeting slide, I wanted to describe how deeply I appreciate this approach, because we also have, is it administrative services that has us, that requests to see the budget broken down in those 3 categories on the other slide? It may not be Department of Administrative Service. LFO, the Legislative Finance Office. Yep. So, I mean, this is an administrative function demonstrating our budget in this format so that they can see it and line it up against kind of standardizing format that lots of agencies use, and it provides consistency for them. But I regard this as a largely administrative effort. If you look again at the outcome-based budgeting, actually, if you back up and look at the donut, the glorious donut, to see that brand stewardship and destination stewardship are almost identical in terms of their 37% composition of our budget. That is to say, 3/4 of the agency's budget are divided into these 2 massive, critical, and important bodies of work that we go through and detail all of these into the budget that derives from this planning process. And then the fact that you go through the gut check of the outcome-based budgeting and say, while we've delineated all of these departmental expenses, to then step back and look at it not through kind of what is the word, a compliance lens like we've been asked for by the LFO, but to really look at it through the lens of our values, through the lens of our 10-year strategic vision, and say, go back and look at your line item expenses, your departmental expenses, and marry those up. And are we really walking the talk we were so passionate over the course of the last more than 1 year to ensure that this 10-year strategic vision wasn't just fluff, that it had substance, that it reflected something that was new and novel and inspiring, both within our state and nationally, to others who watch Oregon as kind of leading at the vanguard of tourism promotion, and especially programming like destination management, which filters all the way down to our regional programming, which filters all the way down to these tourism studios that yield the kind of fruit that we've seen here in Lakeview. To go through the process of taking the outcome-based budgeting approach, again, as an overlay, to really hold ourselves, I'm going to say responsible, because I think accountable is a silly word, to ensure that we're taking responsibility and ownership for this process in one more way, at one more layer. I'm inspired by it. I continue to be inspired. This is my fifth strategic plan that I've had an opportunity to touch and be a part of, and I am no less inspired, even in the absence of the phrase, the coin of the realm. I am no less inspired by this strategic plan than I have been by the others, and I continue to marvel at the remarkable work that staff does. So just an opportunity to say thank you to all of the staff who have played a role in this, and to the VPs, and of course Todd, and Kathleen, lest we ever forget, for the significant undertaking this is. Thanks, Scott.
Thanks, Commissioner Youngblood. Commissioners, are there other comments, thoughts, stuff? Well, in that case, I would entertain a motion to approve the 2023 draft strategic plan and proposed budget.
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
All right. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any in opposition? All right. Very good. The motion carries. And let's see, that brings us to a scheduled break. I'd like to thank Todd and the team for all your work on this. I know the commission and our partners will look forward to seeing how this work progresses. But now we have time for a 10-minute break. I have 10:11, so let's plan. I have 10:12, so let's plan on reconvening in 8 minutes. 10:20. 10:20.
And I was handed a special note here. Okay, that at the back, that means back. Okay, this is back. Okay, at the back, not behind me, but behind this wall, there is pie. Okay, and should you want to participate in that and be able to help support the Elks Lodge that is so graciously hosting us here today. So with that. Because there was angled down a little farther. Pardon me? Do you want this mic angled down a little, maybe up?
All right. We are ready to reconvene. If you can take your seats, we'll get started in just a moment. All right, I've got a couple commissioners to round up. Thank you, Sarah.
Mr. Mullaney.
on the phone trying to sort out her car situation.
Okay, so we'll start without her then. Okay, all right. All right, we will go ahead and get started. Commissioner Shepard is away for a moment taking care of some urgent business, but we will go ahead and get started with the reports, updates, and discussion portion of the meeting. Todd?
All right. Thank you, Chair Boyles. Commissioners, our first presentation today is going to be brought to us by Brian Mullaney, and you have seen Brian, but he's just been one of those floating heads on Zoom over the past couple of years. Even when we've met in person, Brian's schedule was such that he was zooming in, literally and figuratively. But here we are in Lakeview. He does have a passion for fly fishing. That might have had something to do with it too, but I don't know. It's really a pleasure to be able to be here with Brian in person. Brian's going to update us on our work on a very specific program called the Visitor Lifecycle Management Program. And I just want to, as a bit of a preamble and introduction to the work that Brian and Ariana are doing, not just on behalf of Travel Oregon and the Commission, but on behalf of the entire travel and tourism industry, which he will get into a little bit further, is acknowledge that although this is a program that is living currently within our global marketing department, as it is currently called, and will continue, obviously, living within what is called brand stewardship. To me, it's the epitome of a program that just has tendrils into all the work that Travel Oregon does. Because when you hear the examples and you hear about what Brian and Ariana are doing on behalf of the industry, you'll quickly, I believe, come to understand, and they're more so deeply appreciate how the work that the destination development team is doing in communities and developing products, the work that's being done in departments where we're, whether it's helping establish a new trail, work with the Main Street program, develop other products, put together responsible travel initiatives and programs and ideas. The visitor lifecycle management idea, the concept, brings all this work together into a way of making sure that we're reaching visitors where they are in that planning cycle as they're looking at coming to Oregon. And that's probably one of the things I love about it the most, is the fact that it truly unifies the work of Travel Oregon across each and every one of our departments in a way that is meaningful and impactful to our visitors. And that's a beautiful thing. And so with that, Brian, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you, Todd. Good morning, commissioners. I'm really excited to get this update in front of you. It's been a few years since I've been in front of the commission to talk about the Visitor Lifecycle Management Project, or the VLM project as we call it. I think the last time we talked about it was in Gold Beach back in 2018. So it's been a few years and one global pandemic since you've had an update from me. So I'm really excited to get this in front of you today. The VLM program provides a unique competitive advantage for Travel Oregon and a better travel experience for our visitors. Fiscal year to date, the program has generated $2.6 million in economic impact for Oregon's tourism economy, while delivering on Travel Oregon's strategic objective of delivering remarkable experiences. While our award-winning advertising programs are designed to create awareness and drive acquisition, the VLM program acts as the retention side of the business and is designed to keep visitors engaged over time, to allow us to have a constant line of communication, and to provide data for further advertising efforts. The VLM program was started around 6 years ago with the goal of providing our email subscribers with the personalized content to help them through the travel decision-making process by expediting booking, extending trip durations, and driving repeat business. Within the last 6 years, we've selected, onboarded, and scaled a marketing automation platform called Marketo. Within Marketo, we run our standard email program, our ad hoc emails, our welcome series emails, and our nurture stream emails. This Gantt chart-styled view will give a very simplified overview of how these different email series work in conjunction. When a person first joins our newsletter program, they are now immediately entered into our welcome series, which I'll talk about a little bit more shortly. Once that welcome series concludes, the subscriber enters the email nurture stream. And before they get into the nurture stream, they continue to get our monthly newsletters, which consist of our outdoor, culinary, and general newsletters. All of our subscribers will live within the nurture stream until they've gone all the way through all of our VLM phases. The Welcome Series was designed to immediately capitalize on the interests shown by new subscribers. We know that a subscriber is most engaged within the short period of time after they are signing up for our emails. In the series above, you can see our goals, or our call to action, or as we like to call it, our CTAs, for each of our emails. Within the first welcome series, we want to greet and thank our subscribers for joining, while presenting a story with a high click-through rate. Our second and third emails are designed to further engage each of the subscribers by telling them about our 3 newsletter programs and our printed guides. Our final welcome series email uses a fun BuzzFeed-style quiz to ask subscribers to provide their travel dates so we can move them further into the VLM Nurture Stream. The Nurture Stream is the flagship of the VLM program and is designed around the 6 phases of the travel decision-making process, including inspire, planning, booking, traveling, post-trip, and re-inspire. Here's the subscriber flow for the email Nurture Stream. As of now, each phase, except the planning phase, consists of just 1 email. The planning phase consists of 4 timed out emails since most of our subscribers will live in this phase until they provide us their travel dates. Within this phase, we provide content about a beginner's guide to Oregon. We highlight unique lodging experiences. We promote our welcome centers and our Ask Oregon program. And ultimately, we encourage the visitors to provide their travel dates. This phase is all about getting a person to book a trip. Once we have their travel dates, we want to maximize the economic impact of the trip by encouraging our subscribers to book additional tickets and activities like museums, aquariums, events, concerts, as well as hiring guides and outfitters. Once we have your travel dates, the rest of the Nurture Stream is timed out. We send the traveling email 1 week ahead of the start of a person's trip to help build excitement and aid with any final trip planning necessities. Our content here consists of our Take Care Out There responsible travel resources, packing lists, travel alerts, and transportation suggestions. 2 weeks after a subscriber's trip ends, we send out our post-trip email. This email highlights 8 ways to relive your Oregon vacation to capitalize on a subscriber's post-trip glow. I'll cover these 8 suggestions here shortly. And lastly, if we haven't seen a subscriber back on TravelOregon.com, then we send out our Re-Inspire email, which promotes our most engaging content, like our Only Slightly Exaggerated campaign, our 7 Wonders campaign, and an expert guide to Oregon. We want to provide content that will get the subscriber back to the website and back into the planning phase. Here are a few examples of the look and feel of our Nurture Stream emails. This is our recently revamped 3rd planning email, which points subscribers towards our Ask Oregon program. This is part of our traveling email that subscribers get 1 week before they start their trip to Oregon. Next, I want to cover some of the high-level stats coming out of the Nurture Stream program as a whole. We know from the email subscriber survey that each completed trip generates a median spend of $900 per trip. We've generated over 3,163 completed trips through the Nurture Stream this fiscal. Therefore, the email Nurture Stream has already brought in $2.6 million in total measurable economic impact fiscal year to date. And then on the email engagement front, the Nurture Stream emails provide a 200% lift in engagement over our monthly email newsletters. Additionally, once a subscriber clicks off TravelOregon.com to one of our Nurture Stream or from one of our Nurture Stream emails, they show a 12% decrease in bounce rate, a 33% increase in pages per session, and a 22% increase in session duration. This high level of engagement shows the impact of personalized, timely content. While we are seeing noteworthy improvements in subscriber engagement, it is also important to note some of the ancillary benefits of the program. To power our email Nurture Stream, we had to build and maintain robust subscriber profiles within our database. We can now use this data for additional advertising purposes. For example, our profiles can tell us which visitors have trips booked and when they are coming. So we can then feed that data to ad platforms like Meta Ads and Google Ads to provide those subscribers with custom tailored ad units. As tech giants like Apple, Meta, and Google continue to restrict advertising capabilities, It is this visitor-provided data within our subscriber profiles that gives us a unique competitive advantage for years to come. Another area that doesn't get talked about very much within VLM is our content AI tool that's running on traveloregon.com via Marketo. This tool tracks a user's behavior on site and then automatically populates personalized content to them via a module on our Trip Ideas pages. We still control the pool of eligible content that the tool can show, but this is an exciting way to test into artificial intelligence. We also wanted to showcase the new VLM dashboard that we have built to better track a few of the key VLM metrics. Major shout out here to Ariana for putting this beautiful data visualization together. This dashboard gives us a view into how subscribers are moving through each of the VLM phases, how much economic impact we're generating, and how much engagement is coming from our VLM emails. As we all know, we can't improve something that we can't track. But we also want to continue to optimize the VLM program. Here are some of the following improvements that we've made over the last couple of months. Within our third planning email, we were seeing lower than expected engagement, so we executed a content and email layout refresh, and we're able to improve our delivered to click ratio from 3.5% to 6.9%. In the post-trip email revamp, we launched originally with content about posting on social media and tagging us, but then quickly changed that content to a broader, more widely appealing audience. We now promote our 8 ways to relive your Oregon vacation, which is a story that highlights activities that keep a visitor's post-trip glow alive. Within that story, we encourage visitors to tag us on social media, to leave a review at a local business, to thank our Welcome Center staff if they visited, to give the gift of Oregon by shopping for and sharing Oregon-made products, and providing information on how a visitor can offset their carbon footprint from their trip to Oregon. There are a few other things within that email as well, but we can talk about that in a little bit. Lastly, we originally launched the Nurture Stream email. The Y Guides program was just getting off the ground. We've now swapped out all of our Hire a Guide style content to feature the amazing Y Guides program. So what's next for the VLM program? Well, we need to drive more leads, so we are focusing on running more sweepstakes. We are pushing more guide orders, as this is a cost-effective way for us to generate leads. Our next focus for personalization will be to build out interest areas within our subscriber profiles. This will allow us to not only personalize off a person's VLM phase, but also with interest areas like the outdoors, culinary, family activities, and culture and history. We also need to make improvements to how we are capturing our trip dates. Currently, there is no way for a subscriber to change their trip dates once they've been provided to us, and there's no way to cancel your trip altogether. And this is something that we need to change. Lastly, we need to add a second round of content for people who have already been through the email nurture stream more than once. And this is where we'll be focusing heavily on our interest areas. And lastly, I wanted to leave some time to talk about some of the recent wins for the VLM program. As many of you know, our VLM Nurture Stream recently won a Mercury Award for Best Digital Campaign at ESTO 2022. Thank you. Ariana, Rourke, and I set a goal of winning a Mercury Award for the VLM program at an offsite in 2018. It took us 4 years to achieve that goal, and I'm so proud of the work that we put in place to get there. Again, major props to Ariana and to Rourke as well for building out such an impactful and well-received program. We could not have done it without you. And hot off the press, Ariana and I recently learned that we are one of 3 finalists for this year's Adobe Experience Maker Awards in the Architect category. The Adobe Experience Maker Awards recognize the leaders behind the most outstanding customer experiences. This is a global competition across many different industries, so we are very pleased with our selection as a finalist in the Architect category. The architect category recognizes the company that has unified their content and marketing strategy to streamline the digital customer journey, delivering personalized, relevant content to the right person at the right time to achieve measurable impact and lift business results. But like me, you may be wondering about that competition. Well, we're going up against a little organization you may have heard of called the National Football League, or otherwise known as the NFL. And we are also going up against one of India's largest insurance providers called HDFC Life. We are following in the footsteps of other exemplary tourism organizations who have previously been selected as finalists, including Visit Qatar and Visit South Australia. But neither of them ended up the ultimate winner. And we aim to change that when they announce the winners in New York City on June 21st. And with that, I'll close my presentation, and I'll take any questions. Thank you.
What a great image to close with, Brian. I opened this. I introduced Brian by gushing about the program and the team behind it, and I'm going to, before I open it up for questions, do the same thing. This is, what Rourke, Ariana, and Brian have done is taken an idea that was like, what if? What if rather than sending out one email to 200,000 people, we sent out 200,000 emails one at a time? Because we were able to so personalize the experience, so better understand our consumer that we could actually just kind of meet them where they're at. And they've done that. And that's what they've been building over the last 4 years. And now you see the economic impact that is resulting from that. And this is really the first year that we've been tracking that kind of economic return, because the program is now, matured to a place where we're able to do that. I love the fact, we talk about all state tourism directors being friendly competitors. We're very friendly. We're also very competitive. No other state tourism office is doing anything like this. So as Brian said, that competitive advantage for Oregon to be able to be out in front of this and to be able to speak to consumers at a far more intimate level, at one-to-one level, is a powerful point of differentiation for us. Brian, I just commend you and Ariana and Rourke for the great work you've done and to bring us to this point. So it's truly impactful. And with that, commissioners, I'd open it up for any comments or questions that you may have. Chair Boyles.
Thank you for the presentation. That's exciting stuff. I was particularly interested in the fact that one of the things you need to do, as you said, is develop content for the second time around for people entering the nurture stream. So that's pretty exciting. That suggests to me you've got information about how often that happens and how soon after the first trip that happens. Can you share any insights about that?
Yeah, so the current plan right now, people only go through the VLM phase once, and that's because we only have one round of content. What we're looking to do, and what we're also focusing on, or going to be focusing on a little bit more, is the difference between an in-state visitor and an out-of-state visitor. If you're an in-state visitor, you're probably doing multiple trips per year. Sending the same content to you 4 or 5 times, probably not the best experience. But we could potentially get away with that for an out-of-state visitor who doesn't come as often. But with our goal of providing remarkable experiences, we want to add to that the content for a second round, third round, fourth round through the VLM. So right now, the majority of the people within the newsletter program are actually out-of-state visitors. So it does lend itself a little bit more to kickstarting a second round of the VLM nurture stream with some of the same content, just so that we can kind of keep the momentum going. But as I indicated, we're already capturing a lot of interest area activity through various different forums on traveloregon.com, be it the guide order page or the email subscriber side of things. I don't have numbers off the top of my head about the average trip length time through the VLM. I'd have to get back to you on that, but there's a lot of fine tuning that Ariana does behind the scenes in terms of when's the best time to trigger this email? Is it 2 weeks? Is it 16 days? We're looking at that engagement to find the right time to hit someone. So when we look at kicking off the second round of the VLM, that would definitely be something we would be paying attention to.
Other Aaron.
First of all, Brian, wow. Congratulations to you and Rourke and Ariana. This is amazing. I am always blown away by what the Travel Oregon team is able to accomplish and by the unique perspectives you take in creating products that really tell visitors to Oregon that, you matter here. And personalizing that communication is one really great way to say you matter. I'm really curious in terms of your tracking. So I think it's wonderful that we're tracking the revenue generated by this program. And so when you're looking at a booked trip, is that being gauged by somebody leaving that e-newsletter or leaving the Travel Oregon website and going to a lodging proprietor and booking a stay with that lodging proprietor? Or how specifically are we measuring that? And how will the implementation of Google's new system, I think it's called G4, is that the right?
GA4, yeah.
Yeah, GA4.
GA4,
yeah, GA4, is that going to change the interaction at all with that, how that all works?
Great questions. Yeah, there's a few different things to touch on there. So first, as our definition of a book trip is, I think one of the best things about VLM is it's almost all visitor-provided data. There's not a lot of like, hey, we're scraping data here and there, and we're looking at where you're going and using geolocation or anything like that to get to this information. We have no external connections to any booking platforms. Mainly because of privacy issues, there's not a lot you can do in terms of like, hey, Expedia, can you give me all the booking data for Oregon, please? So it's all visitor provided. So that's why kind of the crux of the whole thing is getting the visitors to provide those travel dates. And when we say travel dates, that's like literally the day you're coming and the day you're leaving. So that's how we define a book trip, is once someone provides us their complete booking information. In terms of the GA4 rollout, that won't really have any effect on kind of the reporting coming out of the VLM program. It has more implications on what we're doing on just the general advertising side of things, which we're well ahead of. I had GA4 set up for us 2 years ago, so we have 2 years of data collected already for Travel Oregon, so we can have those year-over-year look-backs, because that's something, one of the major problems, well, there's lots of major problems with GA4. I won't get into all of them, but the year-over-year look-backs is something that is challenging, as well as just the general fundamental changes that's coming with Google Analytics 4. But I'm happy to go way into the weeds on that with you if you want to go down that rabbit hole.
Truth. He
will.
He is. Commissioner DeNova.
Congratulations to you and the team for all of the awards. And I have every expectation on June 21st, we're going to get an email that lets us know that you won. So congratulations to you. You mentioned that VLM dashboard. Is that something, and forgive me if you already stated this, is that on the website, the industry website, for us to review?
It's not currently, so it was originally built as an internal dashboard just for us, the marketing team, or really Ariana and I, to look at, but there's no reason it can't be shared elsewhere.
Okay.
So we can definitely provide that along with some of it. I think we provide the MVP reports and a few other things as well, so we're happy to do that.
Great. And I'm curious, since you know the dates of the visitor arrival and departure, could you tell me in terms of peak and non-peak, kind of what that spread looks like?
Yeah, I was really curious to kind of see where it would land as well as we got into the data. Let me see if I can go back here. I don't know if it's going to be big enough to see. So when we look at completed trips for the fiscal year, which is right under that 3,163 number, the green and grayish line on the bottom, it green's this year, gray's prior year. That's when those trips are completed. So it does follow kind of the seasonal trends that we typically see with, the fall, shoulder time, winter time being kind of our lull, within the summer time being our peaks. What we haven't really got into yet is how much it's different within VLM on a regional basis, because we know the regions have different peaks at different times for different things. So that's something we can dig into a little bit more.
Okay, thank you very much.
Commissioner Bazzi.
Great work. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just a question on what defines a trip. You had noted $900 per trip. Is that over 2 days, 3 nights? Like, what is that? Do you know?
That is I'm going to see if I can get this right on the fly. So that's via our email subscriber survey, which we sent out 2 years ago, a year ago. And it's the median spend for a person who's an email subscriber on their a completed trip to Oregon. And it's everything they spend minus airfare. I believe we back out airfare as we do for a lot of our other metrics. So that's where we get to that $900, and it's specifically that $900 is for an email subscriber who's in the VLM program or one of our subscribers.
Okay, but we don't know if it's, like what a trip is defined as. Do you know what I mean? Is it a week?
Length of stay, I think, is that what you're asking about, Commissioner Ponzi?
Yeah.
Is length of stay, how many days
Length
are
of
here?
stay, yeah, thank you.
Yeah, do we know length of stay or party size? Is that per person, is that a per person spend or a per party spend? I think.
Yeah, that's my question.
And length of stay.
Yeah, don't quote me on this. I can get back to you, but I
Okay.
believe it is kind of a standard definition, which is a trip that's 50 miles or more from your home, as well as this would be your trip party, so it's not individual. I think that's all I can do on the fly.
Cool, that's fine,
Yeah.
thank you.
I'll get you that number.
We have the length of stay here.
I believe we do. I just
Okay.
don't know it off the top of my head.
Got it.
Yeah.
I'm trying to decide which last name I want to use since I'm sitting next to Chair Boyles.
Willits.
Willits? Chair Willits. I'll make you the chair now.
Well, thank you for that. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Brian, for all the information. As a commissioner, I'm really proud of this work. And as a consumer of your newsletters, I feel manipulated. Because I find myself in the middle of Leslie Gulch, hiking around. My wife's like, how did we end up here? I think it was on a newsletter. And foraging mushrooms this year. And I think April, you sent out sunstones. Or maybe May, early May. April. And I will be back here in 3 weeks digging for sunstones out north of Plush and staying at Drake Peak Lookout Tower, thanks to you. And being in that, I will be bathing in that hot spring as well.
That is a good one. It's one of my favorites. But I can't take the credit because I don't actually do any of the content.
Yeah.
So that's our integrated team. That's Amy, Jen, and Mo who are actually building the content that the people like. We kind of just give nudges and be like, how about something about geology? What do you think's great there? So major props to them for, we just send it, they provide all the content.
My question is, how do you quantify me and my wife traveling to these
trade
remote
secrets.
areas? What'd you say?
I say trade secrets. No.
Okay.
No, we have, as I said, we have robust subscriber profiles. So because of Marketo and the Munchkin code that's on Travel Oregon, we are tracking your interactions with what you look at Travel Oregon, where you go, how often you come, and we can use that data to shape the profiles into, we're going to get better at it in terms of like really into hot springs and rocks. There's Greg. We're going to go that direction for him. So we'll see.
And mushrooms and wildflowers. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's the crux of it, because you have to figure out, it's not just everything you like, but what do you like the most, and what do you spend your most time on?
Everything.
You use a technical term, Munchkin code?
That's just the name of the Marketo's code. There's that's like, yeah, it's a brand name. Nothing too fancy. It sounds kind of cool, so I don't know.
And maybe there's some sponsorship or some fuel credits that you can help me out with as well as I drive around the
You have to
state.
talk to Todd about that. Yeah.
Thank you for all your work, and thanks for
I appreciate
pushing me to travel in Oregon.
Any other questions or comments from members of the commission?
Maybe just one. Brian, I'd like to exploit you as a poster child for a moment for what is resonant for me, and I think for many of us as members of the Tourism Commission. We take a very different approach organizationally, structurally, than a lot of other states. We have a relatively strong budget by comparison relative to the size of the state and the population and the visitor spend. We have this CEO, and then we have this leadership team, many of whom are with us today, and then we have these remarkable minds, these inspired talents like Brian Mullaney, who invest themselves so deeply in work that none of the 9 of us on our best day could aspire to fully understand, let alone direct. And yet we get this privilege, we get this honor of helping to create and nurture this scaffolding that supports the work of brilliant minds and deep, fantastic hearts like Brian and Ariana. And it's so inspiring to get to watch the brilliance that comes out of this organization, and to have the honor of helping to be a steward, be a shepherd, to be a supporter, to be a fan. So for what it's worth, thank you. Thank you so much for what you do and with your colleagues.
Thank you, Commissioner Youngblood. It means a lot.
Commissioner Youngblood, you were also, you're very quick to, I know, acknowledge Brian, as Brian did, and will continue to, I know, acknowledge Ariana and Rourke, and I would even add, Michael Sturdivant's involvement, obviously, in helping lead this work as well. But your comments about the talents and gifts of Brian, Ariana, Rourke, and the entire Travel Oregon team and what they bring, it's really humbling and very, very inspirational as well. So, Brian, thank you for being a big part of that. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Commissioners, our second and our last update today is a little bit more of an in-depth look at our upcoming advertising campaign. Katie, I know, is a familiar face to all of you. Sarah Strawn may be a new face to you, but she's a member of our Wieden & Kennedy team, and so I'm going to turn this over to Katie to also introduce Sarah and take us through this presentation on our upcoming advertising campaign. Katie?
Hello. Nice to see you all once again. I know there are some people that are also live streaming that I might not know. So I'm Katie Clare. I'm director of our marketing services team at Travel Oregon and work very closely with our advertising campaigns and with Sarah Strawn, our media director at Wieden & Kennedy. And we would love to take today, we're going to go over a little bit of the Travel Oregon with Travel Oregon campaign and spend a little bit more time deep diving, more than we usually do at these presentations, on some of our media tactics and our audience, which is really important. And then at the very end, so I make sure everybody stays with us, we'll premiere our creative. So really excited to go through all of this today. But I wanted to take a few steps back and reground us before we jump in about why we do advertising campaigns and why this is so important. I actually really love that this presentation gets to follow what Brian just did, because you can see the different levers that we pull within our marketing department that have really distinct purposes. And I feel all I do is to serve the VLM, so here we go. So our advertising campaigns, I'm going to be reading some of my notes more than usual because I don't want to mess this up. So our advertising campaigns are our primary tool to really create that brand awareness and drive all of our other marketing goals. They reach our audiences and let them know that we would like them to come visit. They let them know who we are, and they set the tone and voice of who Travel Oregon is and what you will experience when you see our brand out in the marketplace. And how we stay true to this, how we know what the core and essence of what we is by our brand tone and voice, which we worked really hard to really define as it's guiding our travelers through our Northwest Wonderland. And that's very special to us and helps kind of set that tone for our advertising, and something that we review throughout all the creative development. It's just anchoring it in this point of view so that we can stay consistent to it and we're not trying to recreate with each different advertising campaign. And as you know, with Travel Oregon, we are embracing the guide like never before. But to fully assume this role and to achieve our goal of being truly welcoming to all, Travel Oregon needs a welcoming face of its own. Because don't forget what I said. We have to stand out. So with our advertising campaigns, this is the hook. We want people to be able to easily identify Travel Oregon and to understand who is talking to them quickly and easily. Because don't get me wrong, beautiful imagery with white text and a great tagline is wonderful, but it does not stand out. This is our competitive set, and this is who we are trying to be distinct from. And the sidekick characters will bring Travel Oregon to life, adding memorability, resonance, and interest to our new campaign. So just wanted to kind of share some information about why sidekicks are important, is that ad campaigns use mascots are 37% better positioned for greater mind share than those that don't. Ad campaigns that include memorable characters are 50% more, sorry, you really want to give this to me, are 50% more likely to resonate with consumers. And this should be a full image of Kayak Yak, but that's my fault that I messed that up. Brand mascots can increase ad viewability in a digital context and extend dwell time as much as 20%. So just kind of wanted to share some of that point of view, especially why we have this hook. But it's also that this campaign structure is designed to last for years. So, and to speak to a wide variety of people, niches, and places. They are a tool in the toolbox that will allow us to have easily recognizable brand hook that can deliver on a wide range of things that we need to talk about. So these are things from guides and experts, regions and locations, unique experiences, seasonal pulses, responsible recreation, really anything. And most importantly, they let us have the flexibility to deliver on the strategic vision by being really flexible by season and marketing tactic. Our goal of creating campaign structure that can deliver on vastly different advertising goals at different points of the years, all while having a recognizable look, tone, and feel. As we've been talking about, we're moving away from these large-scale advertising campaign moments. When we go into the media structure, you'll see we're pretty much having our last really large advertising campaign rollout this August. And then we're going to be moving to be in market on an always-on basis pretty much moving forward. And this really will let us deliver smaller pieces of creative that have a more specific message that can reach different audiences that are really targeted, all while being easily recognizable. So when we have a 15-second ad in spot and ad in market, we'll be able to have that quick brand recognition. We feel that this will really allow us to deliver on our marketing objectives throughout the biennium. Sorry to read a slide, but it's ensuring that as a travel destination, Oregon is welcoming to all, create more consistent and relevant ways of reaching new audiences throughout the year, drive stronger, more personal connections to the state, point people towards areas in the most economic need and avoid overuse of others, and drive traffic to traveloregon.com and travel bookings to Travel Oregon. All right, so when I talk about multiple pieces of creative, I'm talking about 20 to 35 for each campaign pulse, each with a different scale and goal. So you can see here we have our anthem, which is this broad campaign awareness that hits all markets. Then what you'll see us moving into is a piece of creative we haven't shared yet, but it's called what we're calling our sidekick intros. So these are seasonal, this will be seasonal content in the fall and spring that will go deeper into the specific topics like fall bounty or specific guided experiences like water, while really reinforcing the approachability and character of our sidekicks, again, as that hook to get people interested in that brand appeal. But then you'll start to see with moving down the funnel and the ultimate goal of getting people to traveloregon.com, then we're going to also have our regional content. So this is really on the scale and size, we'll be delivering like we have never before of additional content to support campaigns. So this will be vertical video and social first content that will have things like day in the life of a guide, responsible recreation PSAs, and lodging content. So we'll be working over the fiscal year to visit each region, and we'll be filming 6 to 12 videos per region per season. So at the end of the fiscal year, we'll be able to have an enormous amount of content that we can promote, all while having a paid effort and plan to support those pieces of content at a significant level, like more than we ever had before. So this is really moving towards what we've been talking about for a long time of we're shifting how we do advertising campaigns. Then the final layer here is one of the most impactful, but the least interesting to talk about sometimes, which is really strong display, and search options to our campaigns. So this is really critical. Like, as you heard Brian's presentation, and you know why. It's like we are trying to deliver traffic to traveloregon.com. So that's the ultimate goal. That is a huge part of it, and it's really important. So we have all of that, and then once people get to traveloregon.com, we'll be able to share in a really compelling way. We have, for this campaign, the Alidia, Mo, the integrated team have built out this beautiful player system for this campaign that's still in development, and then Jen and Amy have developed just an incredible content plan that's supporting this. So this is all really important, but I'm going to keep showing this in a few different ways. And so to accomplish all this, we're going to be launching on August 1st, and then we're going to be following up at that pulsed cadence that you see. So once you see this kind of launch with this large scale with the anthem, then we're going to quickly be moving into behind the scenes content, and then we'll have the Sidekick content launch in September along with the social and regional content. We're briefing in winter with the focus on heads and beds. We all are familiar with the significant dip. We know what we need to be doing during the winter. Back in spring, we'll be supporting with the regional content, really going with a guided experience, but also having those additional layers. Like the social and regional content is always going to be there. And then you'll be seeing us follow up with a message in market in summer, really focused on responsible recreation. So that's what we're really excited about it. And then at the bottom, you can see we'll just have that consistent, always on drumbeat of the display and search options. So once again, another slide. Essentially the same message, but just wanted to kind of share how we're really looking at this. This is a little bit hard to read, especially with the yellow that I'm seeing, and we're happy to send and share any of this. And Sarah can also go into like much more specifics from the widen planning side. It's been really exciting, and we've had a lot of really great collaboration on that space. But after August 1st, we're going to be within the engage, book, or driving hook, engage, book cycle pretty much nonstop. And so this is something that we're just going to be kind of constantly pulling people through the funnel. And the content that we're going to be doing that with is just going to be based off of different needs that we're hearing from partners and messages. So for instance, like when we're talking about the gorge, and we've been talking about seasonality and how to support different use in different regions, we know it's been very clear that we don't need to be driving like overnights, like we don't need to be driving as much visitation during the summer or peak months. But we can work and we can have content, and we're planning to have that in more shoulder seasons. So we're able to drive economic benefit towards regions at different points in the year because we know that that's consistently important. But it's also really important to drive responsible recreation messages in a powerful way for the gorge in the summer. So that's one example, but this is statewide, and we're able to really work and understand the needs of different areas. So I just want to make sure I hit everything I really wanted to say. I hope that you see that with this really, we've been working a lot on the strategy that then we will be able to just start delivering on soon to make sure that we hit what we're trying to accomplish in our strategic vision. We'll be updating this based off of what we're learning, like what's working in content and creative that we're developing, what's working with paid media tactics. And it's just exciting that this is going to start happening and we're able to really shift this advertising structure. I think going back to what Todd was saying as well is like we've started to see this out a little bit from other states within the West of moving towards more of an always on, but coming from just having our Western States Conference, what we call WESTO, this is one of the biggest significant moves by a state to turn towards a different campaign pull structure. So with that, knowing that it also is not our goal just to have a more push with who we're working towards and how as we like expand and grow our audiences, I wanted to have Sarah walk us through who is our audience and what is the review that we've done to make sure that we are really hitting the audience that is most engaged as we look towards, again, fulfilling that strategic vision.
Thank you for the introduction. As Katie mentioned, my name is Sarah, and I lead the media team at Wyden & Kennedy. It's an advertising agency based in Portland, and we have a longstanding relationship with Travel Oregon. A big part of my role is to guide the media strategy and the placement of creative, which you'll see in a little bit. For example, our commercials, banner ads, what you'll see on social media. And a big part of that is making sure that we're reaching the right people who are most likely to come to Oregon. So we do this with various media tools that utilizes data that we gather across the internet. We use data from social media and also mobile apps. So with that, we've created an audience profile of the type of person that is most likely to travel throughout the great state of Oregon. I gotta remember to do that. So we've had great success with our tried and true target, which we've named the active adventurer. These are people who are always looking to the newest destination to visit and find locations offering natural, historic, and really great food options. So we know this active adventurer really well, but we've had an opportunity to go much deeper and niche, and I'll get a little bit more into that in a bit, for specifically diverse and sustainably focused groups within the broader audience. And we want to make sure that we're connecting our stories, make sure we're inspiring, and gather information from their experiences and needs. However, as we head into the next biennium, we've decided to take an even deeper look into how we can evolve this audience to target the right people to support our 10-year strategic vision. So with that, we've prioritized supporting DEI, BIPOC communities, and people who are sustainably minded. So we utilize our media tools to help build who our audience is and what these people like, and we try to estimate how many people this represents. So overall, on a national level, our updated active adventure audience makes up nearly 40 million people across the United States. These people are young, diverse, and partnered, with 39% falling into the 25 to 34 age range, 37% identifying as BIPOC. And we know that as our country continues to diversify, it's critical that we continue to prioritize reaching BIPOC communities. We took it a step deeper, though, as we were looking at these 40 million people and looked at those who are sustainably minded and found that nearly 75%, did I go to the wrong slide? Am I missing a slide? Sorry about that. That 75% of our active adventure audience are. They skew older, they continue to be diverse, and we found them to be middle class. And one thing I want to note when I'm saying that we looked at sustainably minded people, we looked at various, using our media tools and using, surveys and questions. We looked at factors concerning the economy, society, and the environment. So as we built out this audience, we looked at a bunch of different factors that we know that ties back to tourism. So I'm going to go a little bit deeper into the profile of this active adventurer and go a little bit beyond how we built out this target. So I would just want to please note that all of this is based on compiled data and surveys and is meant to be used directionally and not literally. So first we looked at their travel habits. They look for destinations and trips that are really well-rounded and like areas that offer historical and cultural sites. Based on a survey, the majority have stayed in a hotel in the last 12 months, in comparison to approximately 1/3 have reported staying in a vacation rental, such as an Airbnb or VRBO. We also took a look at the interests of the active adventurers. We found that this audience really loves the culinary arts and staying active. They like to have some form of physical activity when they're on vacation or taking a trip, and have also said that eating out at restaurants is one of their favorite activities when they're traveling. Next, we looked at the ad perceptions of the active adventurer, because that's obviously the most important part of my job. So we found that in terms of advertisements, they do resonate with this type of person. We found that they often search for products and services on their phones, don't we all? And as a result of seeing a poster or a billboard, they're definitely more likely to be influenced. We also found that they like seeing people in ads and also really like when companies have a moral message tied to it. And then lastly, we looked at the media habits of this audience. So we know that they keep up with the latest and greatest on social and also stream a lot of video. So specifically, we found that they've used a social site or app several times within the past week. I don't think that's a surprise to any of you to hear that. And have watched at least 2 to 3 hours of streamed video in the past week. So those are just some really, specific details, but it's important when we're building out a media plan to be looking at all these factors of who we're targeting and how specifically we can find them. And so when we were building out our media recommendation, one of the key things that we looked at is, we know that this audience is nationwide, but we know the budget, can't spread to every single state to reach people in the way we want to. So we build out a local market approach. And so within that, we built out our primary markets, our opportunity, and also considered a test market. So within our primary, no surprise, all of the Oregon DMAs are included, which covers all of the 7 regions. We're also looking at targeting people within Boise, Seattle, Spokane, LA, San Francisco, and also looking at Vancouver, BC. And then within our opportunity market, and all of this, mind you, is based on a lot of data that we receive from Travel Oregon, and then some of our media partners as well provide data that helps us narrow in on a lot of these states and cities. But we're also looking at Dallas, Houston, Phoenix, and San Diego. And then lastly, Chicago has been a consideration on our list, and we're going to figure out ways to include it as part of our media plan and see what the data says to see how we can include it more and more and see how we can get people from the Midwest to come out west.
All right, this is my intentional cue. So that's who we're talking to, and we'll have the paid media plan. And so we'd like to share our primary piece of creative that will be launching this August, our anthem. So.
Welcome to Oregon. It's a great place to be. That's right. We've got lots of guides with lots of expertise. If you want a snowshoe, Cedar's someone you should know. Hi. Hike to the best views, Dan will show you where to go. Take a tour of our dark skies.
Let's ponder the meaning of life.
Sustainability's my deal.
And I'm a guy on this reel.
For seasonal trends, Rosa knows.
It's time for Willamette Pinos.
Actually, it's music and events time. There's Pickathon, Rose City Comic Con. Oh, you like tribute bands? You should check out Hairfest.
There's more to Oregon than meets the eye when you see it with an expert guide. Bye.
So with that, we'll be launching with that piece of creative August 1st. We have a 60-second spot, and then for that, our cut downs, we have 2 30-second cut downs. We cut them down seasonally, so we have one that's more focused on fall and winter footage that we captured, and then spring and summer. We have 7 6-second spots that speak to each of the regions. We're receiving the creative over the weekend, so I don't have all of it ready to go right now to share. I will make sure that we get a Dropbox that has all of the creative that we can send via email for everyone to see. And then what we are currently working on right now is the scripts and information for the fall information that I shared with you about. It'll be 3 15-second spots focused a little bit more around our sidekicks of just getting that approachability, a little bit more niche to season. You'll see fall bounty and a little bit more of that featured. And then we're also mapping and planning out our regional content that we'll be capturing because, like we were saying, we have 2 regions that we'll be capturing within the next 2 months, and then we'll move on to the next 2 regions. So that'll be an ongoing effort that will just always be in production. So we'll always have new things to share with you moving forward. But it's exciting because it's a really good shift. It feels really great. So you'll see us launch in August. We have our fall, and you can also see on this slide, you'll see the key assets that we've outlined, our primary media objective, a little bit more in the depth of what that media approach is. So then winter will be really focused on something that's driving a lot booking specifically. There will not be new video creative. Be use assets that we've already made. And then we will have the regional content. And then spring, we'll have additional 315s. We'll be sharing that and briefing that in. And then summer, will be entirely focused around responsible recreation with that layer of the regional that has some pushes towards lodging content, and then the always on digital and search. So this is a kind of our map for the next year. And with that, what questions can we answer?
Katie, Sarah, thank you very, very much. Commissioners, Commissioner Pendleton.
Well, first of all, thank you. This is what I love to see when I come to a commission meeting. So lots of exciting things. It's interesting. I know there's a lot of work that goes into the creative piece that you put together there. I've actually had the opportunity to see how that process works, and I'm amazed with the time, the cost, the labor aspect of it. But kudos with the outcome there. It was amazing. On the primary and the opportunity, I was surprised I didn't see the Bay Area there.
San Francisco's a primary market.
Did I miss it? No?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, San Francisco is on there.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, there it is. Thanks.
I really appreciate the campaign. I love your data first on mascot usage, and that's helpful for us because I'm used to my own interpretation of advertisements. But I appreciate that with the natural organ in the background or as part of that scene. It was really fun and also I wanted to be part of that snowshoe expedition. And I see myself in those images, so I appreciate that. You inspired me. And the question I have is social declining year over year? Are we seeing any sort of dip yet in its usage or at a pickup by younger media consumers?
So,
You go.
yeah, it's a pretty general question. So, we see trends that impact specific platforms and how Travel Oregon as a brand engages with them. And then there's also, I think maybe what you're referring to as well is the consistent push towards paid first on social, but it's also for different audiences identifying which platforms they are using and why. For instance, we're looking and evaluating how do we engage with consumers on TikTok. We have a specific TikTok strategy for this campaign that is different than how we would use when we place ads on Meta. But that's pretty broad in general and what we're reviewing. Brian also has a really beautiful dashboard that we review monthly for our social platforms. And we review the content alongside the platform performance, and then also that within campaign. So it's something that we definitely keep an eye on, and there's consistent trends that we see. And part of what we do with all of the work is what's essentially audience development and how do we engage on that platform, and then what delivers well and consistent for others. Social delivers a ton of traffic to traveloregon.com. So it's kind of broad, but I know what you're talking about, and it's we have to just really evaluate it per platform.
You did great.
Okay, thanks.
I think he was asking you if he needs to double down on his ad spend for MySpace.
Yes, and Foursquare.
I don't think I'm that old. I'm referencing my, and again, my lens is my kids, and
Yeah.
they are putting that aside. And when we're recreating, they're not even bringing it. They're talking going back to a flip phone if it's even an option, and that's kind of where I was questioning, not for personal MySpace advertisements, but anyway, thank you for your answer.
Commissioner Pazzi?
Well, I always have a comment about this stuff, so here goes. Hey, I want to first say amazing creative, super fun. Absolutely, I think hitting your goal of getting attention, because definitely that is hitting that goal. I think the part that I'm struggling with and I continue to struggle with is I get the active adventure. I mean, I understand that. What I struggle with is what is the value, how much, what's the spend on that adventure active adventurer. The data that I'd mentioned earlier was about boomers, women, older women, medium income of 120,000 or so. So my question is more like, while I understand we're getting a lot of excitement and hits and getting to the website, but at the end of the day, like what I want to know is, are these people spending money in our state, or are they just going for a hike in the woods because it looked like fun? Sorry, I'm breaking it down pretty frankly, but I just want to know, like, what's the spend on an active adventure? Like, what are we getting at the end of the day? Kind of a big question, but.
We have that data. Yeah, I feel like that. I don't have that data right now. It's a really great question. Let me go back with my team and also Brian and team, because they have a lot of information on that, because I don't want to make something up.
Sure.
I want to answer it.
Yeah, I mean, I just think it's really important because this is, I just think we need to be very careful about who are we bringing into the state. Of course, that's obvious. But I also want to say this, that I think one remark I made in Astoria was I thought the campaign was moving into too cute of a zone, and I think that it's still in a too cute of a zone for someone who is a boomer, who is still seems to be coming into the state and spending money. So that's my little opinion.
I appreciate that opinion, and I just also want to say with the spend is when we're reviewing the target and when we're reviewing the target markets in particular, we look at we have ROI by market and average spend within the target. And so especially for fly markets, that's part of the consideration set of like, is it $208 per night? Is it $337? And so especially when we're looking at different markets, so we will get that summary of spend to you because it's part of the consideration in how we select all of these. Mm-hmm. And then we can also, I think as you may be seeing a little bit with Brian, is like targeting where we can deep dive a little bit more about like the content that's served in the ads as well, because it is something that we definitely consider with how are we addressing different markets.
Yeah. I think that's all. But fantastic creative.
I have something to say. Wonderful. I always love, this is my favorite part of the Travel Oregon meeting. I am sorry to say it, but it is, just to see the rollout of the creative content. It's really super fun. But this now, what you had to say, now, let's see if I can word this. But in Brian's presentation, going back to that 900 a day, or for the trip, and how much is spent per trip, and does that now then correlate with you're saying that the target audience is this active adventurer that is the age group between 24 and 34, right?
No, 25 to 54.
Okay, 25 to 54. Thank you for clarifying, because I thought I was going to be out of that category of active adventurer because of my age. But that's good to know, because I was thinking if it was 24 to 34, that I wonder if then, because it is that younger generation, that they're spending less. Does that make sense? That if there was some correlation there with the amount that is spent per a trip or a day because of, that age group. Not saying that younger people make less, but
well, there is interesting. I think what we're also kind of talking about with the comments that have come in is how are we developing and addressing goals per demographic as well, like how we're reaching our audience. It's like what you're hearing is like one broader topic. And this was actually a really interesting topic that we were able to connect with Visit California on as well, because you're looking at statistics that of like the economic impact that's real across like Generation Z within the next 4 years, we'll have over 70% of all debt within the United States. This is from the U.S. Commerce, versus you look at the opportunity with boomers and Gen X within, they'll have 76% of all wealth. And that wealth is trip spending wealth. And so it's reviewing, like, how are you able to develop creative that can assess goals overall? And that's something that we're definitely considering and looking at, like, do you start to develop different tactics and how you reach audiences based off of demographics like that, which is not something that we've necessarily done before, but it's something that I know, like, all tourism organizations are doing, and also something that we're considering, like, as we move away from these really large scale pieces of creative that we've typically done. Like, we've had one anthem before. Like, how do we start to be able to break things down more by niche? And that might start to look more by demographic, like age demographic as well. So I think, like, what these comments are kind of centered around is, like, younger, like, generations setting down their phones and moving away from social media. It's all different consideration sets that we're looking at. And I think it's really valuable. Like, I think it's really important. We all are seeing it within our audience, like our experiences, and something that we need to make like we are paying attention to, and will continue to be done. Like, we continue to do so.
I wasn't quite done, sorry. One more thing on the responsible recreation message. And since there is definitely, some imagery of fly fishing and fishing, that's very cute. Don't know who inspired that, but that there is possibly some messaging that is going to be around just the responsible techniques of catch and release. So I just am hoping to see that in there.
Okay.
That would be very nice. So
I will also say, Commissioner Shepard, if this ever comes up, if the pieces of creative I get the most feedback on from Todd and Kevin are specifically around fishing. And the fly, for instance, there's like a specific fly that I had a lot of input on. But that's great feedback. Yeah, definitely something that we'll look at and consider.
I'm sorry I interrupted you, Mia. My apologies. Can you go back to the slide? So there was the slide where it was a younger person, and then the slide where you said older, which I would prefer you put middle age. I would feel better with that because I'm in that, right? No, the breakdown of how much they spend, keep going. There it is. So I just want to make sure I'm understanding. So one slide before that. This is the range that falls within 25 to 34. We know 30% represent the BIPOC community and 58% are married. And then going to the next slide, we're at the older demographic. Really, I'm trying to speak to Commissioner Ponzi's question. In these two groups of people, I know we have the anthem, and I know we're getting more specific in our advertising, but are you, and forgive me if you've already articulated this, are you advertising differently to those two sets of consumers?
We are. I don't know if this is on. We are, and that's a great question. So as we build out our media plan, because we know that especially this active adventure audience is broad, and there are different generations, and they have different, they have different levels of disposable income. They have different media habits. They have just different things that they like to do. And so we know that how to reach them, there's different ways to do that. So as we've built out our media recommendation, there are different media channels and tactics for how we reach them. So for example, we will have a TV buy, and we know that skews to people who are, older, and who have cable television.
Not older, middle-aged.
Mature. Versus we also are including in our buy Hulu and Peacock and streaming platforms where we know will resonate with younger generations. But at the same time, in some ways, we leave we have different ways that we can target people based on different platforms and different ways that we can find those people to make sure that we are reaching them at the same, in the same ways. And then also from a social perspective, there's so many ways to do that. And we have a a specific team at Sparkloft that handles all that. I help them with the strategy, and they are able to look at all of it in various ways and get really niche at some points in terms of how they target people and what type of creative is going to, hit people within this age range and so forth. So it is something that we're always talking about and considering.
And the content that is served up is different, as I think, Katie, can you speak to that?
So we also look at within the overall media plan of it's a lot of layers. Yeah. And so we have the anthem, but then, for instance, when we go into the fall, we'll be doing specific partnerships with Bon Appetit, Food and Wine, Gear Patrol. That will not be the anthem creative that you just saw. It'll be connected content that doesn't feature the sidekick. So when we get into more specific publications, and I think this is something we talked about before, is we know with specific publications, an image of Kayak Yak is not the most impactful, but a beautiful Oregon scenic shot is. And so we have paid opportunities in those that are part of the overall media plan. And then I was just thinking of something else. Oh, yeah. We will, we can go deep, but it's those are looking at different opportunities of where are the different audiences that we can reach and the different content that you're speaking to that we didn't get into today. And then we also, this is all the things that we could have included, and Todd's you had 40 minutes, you could have. But for instance, we have already a few earned partnerships for the launch of the campaign as well that are targeted in Oregon regional publications that'll feature just guided content, for instance. So yes, different levels of different pieces of content.
Well, I appreciate this level of detail. It does spur more questions. So I appreciate that as well, you taking the questions from the commissioners. You and I also had a conversation in the back, and I just wanted to touch on this a bit. So in our the comments that we received from the industry about the plan, there was a topic about making sure that we weren't marketing to high visitation areas, and there was the interpretation that we continue to market to high visitation areas, and that's not necessarily the case. And so I would like you to speak to that just to make sure we, as commissioners, understand that process better.
Yeah, so I think what this is a little bit more background, and I'm sorry if this is too much detail, but when we did the 7 Wonders of Oregon campaign, it was really successful and it was wonderful. And it's a really great campaign, and I really stand by that work. But what we also saw was a lot of impact to specific place. I got to know the park ranger at Oregon at Smith Rock State Park, and we had conversations about how much toilet paper they went through. We had a lot of connection in that space. And so we were really deliberate when we started to evolve our marketing work of making sure that when we feature places within our advertising campaigns, that we have conversations with our regional partners and lane managers before each one of those features. And if we have something that we find might be problematic for visitation, we have a conversation that's really intentional about, for instance, if we're creating an advertising campaign that's going to garner national attention, you may see Crater Lake featured within that advertising campaign. But we also have a conversation with Craig Ackerman before that advertising campaign to talk about that and to figure out if we need to have paid ads to support that. But for the most part, we try really hard to feature off the beaten path destinations. And so that's why you see places like Crack in the Ground. All of our destinations that are featured in the anthem is everywhere from Prineville State Park to, we were really intentional with featuring the southern coast within that. So we work really hard to make sure that we have those features. And if we do feature in one of our more iconic destinations, we try to really support that with a lot of, if you visit, here's how you should do so messaging, because we also feel strongly that you can't really influence behavior around a destination by just not talking about it either.
Thank you. Really appreciate the work. I appreciate the information about mascots. I, too, am not one who would necessarily like a mascot, but I love that we make our decisions based on data and information. And so thank you to you both for all of your work.
If I may, I have a couple
questions too, unless we're completely running out of time here. So first of all, kudos on a great job. Representing an entire state is a big lift, and I know you guys do it all the time. That's a very diverse state with a lot of different needs and interests. I did have a specific question on one of the slides, and we don't need to try to go back to it, but under middle income, you had $1,000 disposable income. Was that annually, monthly, quarterly? How was that $1,000 of disposable income being quantified per trip, or I just wasn't sure of the basis of that data?
No, that's a really great question. I need to check back on that, but I believe that the $1,000 of disposable income was annually.
Okay. And yeah, I think that those are I think that those are all great data points for us to be looking at. One of my questions was really around whether or not the active adventurer was the only persona we would be pursuing, and around some of that benchmarking of who that is, and how you would connect that active adventurer to a region like Oregon wine country, right? How do you make that leap? I'm not sure. I think that was maybe Matt Leitner at OCTA on one of the slides in there, maybe. Anyway, they were going kind of quickly, but yeah, that's an Oregon, a very uniquely Oregon experience with wine pairing. That's $420 per person. So, how are we connecting into all of that?
Yeah, and I think this goes back to, I think what our presentation is focused around today is like that broad awareness and how we're connecting with that audience. And when we look at those, we do not currently build out specific personas down to the niche level for each niche. We look at what are those key indicators. This is something though that especially I will say, like, we're looking forward to within like our new organizational structure. We have like Michael Sturdivant on our team is really going to be focused on that strategy. So I think it's something that as we continue to have like these always on campaigns with the larger media budget attributed towards them, we'll continue to look at these opportunities. But I will say, as someone that also sees our communications department, like our partnerships in PR and how we target at different levels really focus on a lot of that opportunity as well. As like, that's why we're really focusing on like a partnership to support the OCTA Summer Solstice and bringing in national media for that. Like, there's different ways that we target at different times of like what's the most impactful to reach the audience.
So you're saying with this always on layered approach then that you're really going to be able to get specific to all of the different parts and pieces of Oregon within this campaign. I think that's what I'm hearing you say.
Yeah, a lot more opportunity, and also determining within Travel Oregon, what is the most effective use of what we do and what we're able to do? Because even though this is a large portion of Travel Oregon's budget and our scope, it really is not, it can't do all things. Right. And so I think that's why it's also important that we always take the step back of like, what is our role? And our role is to make sure that Oregon and Travel Oregon are front and center, and why we work with our regional partners and kind of reinforcing that structure of like, it might be more appropriate for another partner to have a more specific message for a specific niche, whether that's anything from wine to mountain biking, or like even how we could support someone that has like a message like the food system work at the coast. Like, I think that's something that we're also going to be just taking part of, like, where's our place and how do we make sure that we're taking the time to like work with partners that might be more effective.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing.
Again, I just wanted to say great work and great collaboration, and thank you for the background, understanding, the statistics, but also how we distinguish ourselves from other states. I had no idea there were over a half dozen other states with beautiful scenery and white type. We have to look
Think
different.
you'd find more.
Yeah. And so, and then truly, it made me laugh. Evoked journey, and certainly the campaign is fun, but it also evokes adventure, and compliments to everyone who participated. And the sidekicks definitely are a way of distinguishing us and providing just a means of connecting to a different audience that will, I believe, shoulder our off season too, in addition to add to our season. Thank you. I wanted to ask about that off season and how we're going to, what is the strategy to focus on shouldering our season into off season, and as you put heads on beds.
Oh, heads on beds. So for that specific campaign activation, we're briefing that in right now. So I don't have the specifics for you, but will by September. And then, so I think that's the best way to answer that without getting ahead of myself and having to contradict something later. But we will have that, and we have a pretty close, but we have our budget allocations for that, and we'll be looking at really a lot of like what is our best advertising spend to get the return on bookings to focus that campaign around that pulse.
Wonderful. I look forward to that presentation. Thank you, and great work.
Thank you. I'm appreciative of the order of operations today, the fact that we had Brian's presentation preceding this one, because I think that it elevates the level of questions that we're able to ask, having the context provided in the order in which this was presented. A few things in no particular order. The ability to drive through inspiration people back, because we can agree that the new philosophy of Travel Oregon is that we all live in service to Brian, Ariana, and Rourke. The ability to be able to create these campaigns that generate inspiration and interest and drive people back to very targeted communication. Remember, to Katie's point, you said we don't have to come, you didn't say, but you said that we don't need to come up with all of these personas because, to quote Todd from a few minutes ago, we don't need one email to 200,000 people. That's not the game we're playing. We are now composing 200,000 individual messages. So it doesn't need to be as, it should give us comfort that we need not think as provincially as we always have. I need to see myself represented. I need to see my industry represented. I need to see my geographic region represented. These truths take care of themselves because the people who are interested in my demographic, who think like I do, who buy like I do, will receive the messaging that is curated to my needs. And the brilliance of this kind of process that we've never seen in our competitive landscape before. I mean, many of us come from hotels where we do two things in descending order of dumbness. Dumb number one, what are the other hotel companies doing? How do we mimic that and try to do the same thing? And when we really huff too much glue, then we say, gosh, what are the airlines doing? Because we want to be more like the airlines because they seem to be the smartest guys in the room. The fact that you have upended this process in order to market in very specific ways to very individual consumers is stunning and inspiring. And it reminds me of the importance for us and in our communication with our constituents, our partners, our colleagues throughout our individual industries and our individual circles of influence, that we can encourage people who will come to us to say, hey, I have a concern about this or that there is a process, that we don't need to be experts on the process because we have access, unfettered 24-hour, always-on access to the experts whom we can consult any day of the week to get answers to very specific questions. And the important message that we can send is trust the process. There is a process. It's a brilliant process. Trust the process. and we can always get the details to support individual answers to individual questions. Maybe my only real question, and this is the one that's been haunting me since your first utterance of the words, Katie, kayak, ack.
Oh.
Why not Bodie McBoatface?
We do not have an internal voting process on names, so that's why it's not Bodie McBoatface.
Well, I think the commission should form a committee. And that's all I have to say about that.
All right. I'm going to exercise some prerogative here and observe that we're nearing the end of our meeting today. And in my last meeting as chair, I'll say that it's been a pleasure to serve these last 8 years and an honor to serve as chair for the last year. I've heard from several of you that you want to continue the governance discussion. I've committed to getting the documents that were referred to earlier that continue the governance work that we've been doing out to you in the next couple weeks. But I think discussion around those documents and adoption by the commission is work that will take place under your next chair and vice chair. And I think that you're in a particularly good place to do that with Commissioner DeNovo's experience over the last 7 years, on the Coos Bay City Council and now as the council president there. So I think that will be helpful in informing some of that work. So at this point, there's an opportunity for additional business or announcements from commissioners. Anybody have anything they'd like to add?
May I make a comment?
Sure.
I want to make a comment because I think that's reflective of this visit. Yesterday was so inspiring. Bob, are you still here? Yeah. The dark skies was very inspiring to me on so many different levels, and I mentioned it yesterday, but the power of tourism can go beyond just bringing our economies up, but can also place a message about how we treat our environment, how we treat small towns. And I think that this is something that is also part of the strategic plan, which is to really respect our environment and the sustainability piece. So I hope that we really take heart in the responsible visitation piece that Commissioner Shepard also touched on, because as we invite visitors out to places like this beautiful county, I hope as an Oregonian that we can try to preserve these beautiful landscapes and everything that we have all experienced in this room, and our children have enjoyed, that we make sure that we can do this with a very delicate balance as we grow our economy and we bring attractions to these smaller areas of Oregon. It's a delicate balance, and I guess that's also my mention on the advertising campaign, that I hope that Oregon continues to lead with this level of responsibility and an eye towards the future, and that we really respect what we have here, and that we don't make it too easy or too fun, but we try to teach those who come here just a little bit more about how we can do better and make change in a bigger way. So I just want to say that, because I was very inspired by the program and just in being in Lake County. So thank you.
Thank you for that comment. Commissioner Ponzi, any others? Commissioner DeNovo.
Chair Boyles, I just wanted to thank the commission for the opportunity to serve as chair. It is, as we all know, it's a great honor to serve on this commission representing the industry, and an even greater honor to serve in a role of leadership. As your incoming chair as of July 1st, I want to make sure that every commissioner knows that I hear you. Chair Boyles and I have been very committed to governance during his tenure as chair, making sure that we have processes in place, making sure that we have transparency around that work. Chair Boyles, I want to commend you for the work that you have done and guiding me through the two governance pieces that we will be presenting to you soon. I think as I've talked to a few of the commissioners, there will be more opportunities with that finance committee for more commissioners to be more engaged in this work. And so Commissioner Willits and I will be meeting with Sarah and Todd in the coming month to talk about what our directive will be going forward as chair and vice chair. And we will celebrate Commissioner Shepard and Chair Boyles at the September meeting, but truly it has been an honor to serve as your vice chair, Chair Boyles, and I look forward to celebrating both you and Commissioner Shepard at the September meeting.
Thank you for those comments, Commissioner DeNovo. Commissioners, any other comments? All right, then. Our next meeting will be in early September in Pendleton in tandem with the Roundup. And as mentioned by Commissioner DeNovo, I will be in attendance in Pendleton, but you'll have a new chair starting July 1st. So congratulations once again to Chair-elect Willits and, Vice Chair. I've promoted you already. Vice, yeah, well, both, all in one fell swoop.
I'll sit back.
Yeah. That's probably wise. Vice Chair-elect Willits and Chair-elect DeNovo. Best wishes to you in your coming roles. I also encourage commissioners to get your cowboy boots and cowboy hats broken in, as we'll certainly have the opportunity to wear them at some events during our time in Pendleton. And I see some of you are already engaged in that, so kudos to you. Finally, I'd like to thank staff and our local partners for a wonderful meeting, and with that, we are adjourned. Thank you.